Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the podcast.
Third take, people.
Hello, everybody. I'm a very hoarse Griffin Newman.
I'm a coffee drinking David Sims.
This is a podcast called Blank Check with Griffin and David. We discuss filmographies of directors who have had massive success early on in their careers. Oh, God.
Oh, he's struggling, guys. He is tired.
I am. No one should ever promote a TV show.
He's a tie-tie boy.
No one should ever promote a TV show. I'm Joseph Cross from Wide Awake.
Mm-hmm.
And this podcast is about filmographies, directors who have had massive success early on in their career and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes they clear and sometimes they bounce, baby. And now this could be an episode where David talks the entire time.
So just let's work on just a context. So you're filming a movie right now.
I am.
Is that we can say that at least?
Yeah, we can say that.
Which you booked right after making The Tick in one of your stupider career up decisions. You know, one of your stupid good decisions.
Yes, I've made a very bad decision to continue succeeding.
Yeah, you have a very bad decision to take a job that you probably should take, if that makes sense.
Yes,
it's just a little role or what? It's like a. But you're making a movie.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not like he's not the star of a movie, but he's making a movie, guys.
No, I booked this like in the last, while doing the last episode of The Tick. Mm-hmm. And I've been going back and forth between filming this movie and doing press. Which has also required me to fly to different countries.
Right. And doing post production work.
Right.
And you're going to go to Australia tomorrow.
About to go to Australia.
Right. Yeah.
I'm burning the candle at like 5 ends.
Yeah. So
right now. So my body is just given out.
Yeah,
my body's given out. My voice is just quit. Mm-hmm. It is telling me to stop working.
But
we're here to talk about Interstellar.
We got blank check to do. I don't give a shit about any of this.
Could push this back because look, I know it might sound like a humble brag, all the talking about how busy I've been, all the things that are going on in my career. So but David over here is very busy as well because he's on a 2-week vacation.
I am very pumped up about my vacation. Now, I'm realizing now as the vacation comes to a close, I've only got a few days left.
Okay.
Because after week 1 of my vacation, when I didn't go back to work for week 2, I was like, this is how you do it. You just don't go back. You take, you really decompress. Like I went away, I came back to New York, I've chilled out for a few days and going away again. But now I'm realizing next Monday is going to be soul crushing.
Yes.
Yeah. The longer you're away, the worse it is to go back. That's the problem.
Definitely.
It's like a theory of relativity, if I want to tie it into the movie we're about to discuss.
Right. It's like a time cube. You got to tap that bookcase, baby. Yes. You took a brief intermission from your vacation to record this episode because otherwise we were going to run out of episodes. Otherwise I would be in bed right now.
Yeah, no.
We literally have no other choice but to record right now with my voice sounding like this.
It's literally, this was it.
Yes.
There was a lot of
1 3-hour window.
We had all these blackboards and we wrote all the possibilities, and it was like, no, we can only do Thursday at 10 a.m.
Yes, Michael Caine was lying on the bed, dying, telling us, you can't record. You will have to miss a week.
So we
figured it out.
Revive you from hypersleep and pull the cord off of your saran wrap, and you started crying when we lifted you out all wet and
I
sad.
did, and you didn't know I was going to be in the bag because I was uncredited. It wasn't in any of the marketing materials.
Oh boy. But it was announced, but everyone forgot.
Yeah, because
that's the thing about Damon in this movie.
Right. It was announced, but weirdly. I feel
it was just sort of in the announcement, like Matt Damon's in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And then he wasn't in any of the marketing. And then when he was doing press for other movies, he'd be like, I just have a small part. I just did it because I wanted to work with Nolan. So I went into it thinking he was going to have a Burstyn size role.
Sure. You mean he'd be the linchpin of the movie?
I thought he was going to be the comic relief.
Sure.
I mean, he's so funny in The Martian.
That's what I mean. That is our finest comedy.
This is a year before The Martian. So he was actually probably just trying to limber up his comedy, muscles.
Look, he went to his agent in 2012, right? And he said, it's time for a career invention.
You know what's funny? Space.
He said, look, I need to rebrand myself. Jason Bourne has run a little dry. I don't want to have to tap that well again, right? He made the mistake later.
Yeah.
But he said, here's what I want to do. I want to, going forward, only make movies where I'm alone, secluded on a foreign planet, and Jessica Chastain is vaguely trying to rescue me. And he made 2, and then they were like, we're out. There are no more scripts.
This is tough. You know, come on. Jessica wants to do something else. She's sick of rescuing you. Sort of.
Sort of. It's a little bit of a stretch.
But I mean, look, she's in both movies.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy when you think about it.
And these are 2 successive years.
It's 2000, and they are the only movies he was in. He was only in Interstellar in 2014, and he was only in The Martian in 2015.
Yeah, it was part of his comedy rebranding.
And then
God, The Martian's so funny.
He
makes
food
out of poo-poo.
Because this is, I'm sorry, The Monuments Men's also 2014.
Hey.
Remember?
Yeah, no, I remember. He poops into a potato or whatever he does, and you see the whole thing. And
Yeah, that's what happens. He carves a hole into a potato, and then he poops. He squeezes his poop into the little hole in the potato.
And Ridley Scott then like walks on set, and he was like, "You have to see it. You got to see it." And then he like leads Matt Damon over to a console, and he's like, "Let's edit the footage now." And you watch them edit it. And the Golden Globes just hurl their globes at the screen.
I always thought it was a weird choice for Ridley Scott to edit the HBO first look of The Martian into The Martian. And not even like at the end, it just happens in the middle. It like interrupts the movie.
Oh, boy.
Usually he saves that for the director's cut, you know?
What a great opening to our episode about my favorite Christopher Nolan movie.
Is this your favorite movie of this decade?
It is my favorite movie of this decade.
Wow.
I thought about that when I was watching it for this podcast, which is probably like my 8th viewing of it or something, like something around there.
It's a miniseries called The Pod Night Cast. It's the films of Christopher Nolan.
Forgot about that part.
I forgot about everything.
Yeah. And I was sort of like going through like my other like very top films of the like 2010s. And I was like, yeah, no, Interstellar. And then I posted that on Letterboxd, I think. And a lot of people told me that I was stupid.
Yeah, you got some. You're really Griffin it up today. You're
yeah.
I got to be the grump, and you're really.
You're good. You're a good grump.
What was I gonna say? What's your number 2?
That's a good question. If I
mean, did you make a letterbox list that was ranked
of like the 20 teens?
Yes.
I don't know what my number 2 would be like at first thought. It would. I'm just sort of looking at like the various movies I've like ranked number 1. Probably Margaret.
Yeah, I was gonna say because that's
probably Margaret.
That's my favorite of the decade. That's mine with a bullet.
A bullet.
A bullet.
Social Net.
Good movie.
Would be up there.
Good movie.
Holy Motors.
Good movie.
Wind Rises.
Never seen it.
Oh, you should see it. I know you're not really a Ghibli guy, but
it's a mountain I still have to climb.
Yeah.
Getting into Ghibli.
It's, to me, the Great Mountain to Climb. That's like the most whimsical mountain you could climb.
It's a very whimsical mountain.
Like every 5 minutes, there's a goddamn lantern with a foot that like, shakes your hand or whatever.
And the mountain tells you about its dreams.
Yeah, it's great. But I do love this movie, Interstellar.
Yeah.
His last movie before his current movie that's out in theaters right now.
Yes.
It came out in November 5th. 2014.
Because it got that big Thanksgiving bump when people.
Yeah, it made actually like a surprising amount of money.
Because when it came out, the opening was considered kind of disappointing.
Right,
people were like
"Ugh." And the reviews were mixed, so people were like, "Oh, he's swung and missed again." Yeah,
and then it ended up doing kind of a crazy number for what this movie is.
Because I was talking to someone yesterday about how Dunkirk is doing so well, and they were like, "Really? It's not made anything close to what Interstellar made." And I was like, "Huh?" And I checked, and I was like, "Right, it also made a ton of money internationally."
Yes.
So Interstellar was actually kind of a hit.
Weirdly.
Yeah. Even though I feel like the initial perception of it was, a little bit of a disappointment.
But he was coming off of 3 consecutive movies that ranked in the top 10 movies that studio had ever made.
Crazy, crazy hits. Yes.
Just next level hits. So I think it was always going to be seen as a disappointment compared to those.
Yeah.
And the opening was small. For what it was, the opening was small. It got beaten out by a movie that I won't say yet because I don't want to ruin the box office game.
Oh, please don't. Yeah, of course.
But then it lingered. It multiplied. It was a dad movie.
Much like Dunkirk, because I think Dunkirk's going to just keep chugging along for a while. It was one of those movies.
So too.
You know, the magic of a dad movie is the dad doesn't know from opening weekends. He's just like going to want to see it eventually.
Yes.
Like, you know, and I saw this movie at a press screening, obviously, but then the second time I saw it was at Thanksgiving with my like uncle, you know, like that was the experience.
I saw it opening night, midnight.
Midnight.
Lincoln Square.
Like actual midnight?
IMAX. Actual midnight.
Right.
Actual fucking real deal big boy midnight.
That's fine because you got home like 1:30, right? This is a very short movie. This is his longest movie, to be clear. It's 2 hours and 49 minutes long.
I just remember like going to get a slice of pizza after the movie because I was hungry.
Like it must have been like 3 in the morning.
That was the thing. I was like eating my pizza. I was like taking my time, and then I checked my watch, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Why'd you see it at midnight? Why not at like 7 p.m. or whatever?
I think the other ones were sold out.
Right.
I want to see it. I saw it with Derek Simon, my best friend, my oldest friend.
Derek Simon, who just has these great dogs I look at on Instagram all day.
He's got
now.
a great dog.
Yeah.
President Bartlett.
Yes.
Is his dog's name.
Yes.
My oldest childhood friend and a current writer of Supergirl.
That's right.
We used to we went to summer camp together when we were 9. We went to an arts camp. We used to touch dicks and stuff. But we were 9 and we went to an arts camp, and we were like the indoor kids at the arts camp.
Sure, right.
So
even at the arts camp, yeah, right.
They had a required time where you had to go swimming, and he and I became friends because we both ran the same con, which was we would quote unquote forget to pack a swimsuit every day so that they couldn't make us swim.
Right.
And so what they did was they made us stay on the other side of a fence because they were like, well, if you can't come swimming, then you're not even allowed into the general area.
Right.
So we literally sat in this dirt outside of a fence and traded X-Men cards and talked about comic books. And now he writes Supergirl and I'm Arthur on the tech.
You guys are both so handsome, though.
Oh, get out of here.
It's true.
Derek's very handsome.
You're very handsome, too.
So
you saw it with Dirk.
Right. Who, Dark Knight fanatic.
Okay. Specifically the Dark Knight.
Nolan fan, I think in general, I think he would identify as a Nolan fan, but Dark Knight was kind of a big watershed movie for him, and I think he saw it 10 times in theaters.
That's crazy. That's too many times to see a movie in theaters.
I went with him like 2 of the times, I think.
I mean, 2's fine.
Yeah.
2 sounds good. 2's close.
I probably saw Toy Story 3 10 times in theaters.
I don't know why I am shocked by that news or upset about it, but I am both.
I lost count at a certain point, but it definitely was at least 8 times in theaters.
I have seen Toy Story 3 once, and then like maybe like another 40 minutes of it total on TV, like if you sort of aggregate all the minutes together.
Right. So I've seen it that time that you saw it plus another 20.
So you saw it at the AMC Lincoln Square, the New York's actual IMAX theater, which is colossal.
Right, which is huge.
I saw it at a press screening there.
Okay.
An empty press screening. It was literally like me, Richard Lawson, Katie Rich, friends of the show. Who we were all sitting in the back row, which is where I like to sit in that fucking theater. And like it was like
for the middle, baby.
Well, that's where Mr. Nolan sits, I was told.
They call me Patricia Heaton because I'm in the middle. 15 comedy points
that was
for
too good.
Me.
That was so good. You get to give yourself the comedy points.
And then I give myself 5 comedy points for giving myself 15 comedy points.
Bingo.
That wasn't a bad bit.
No, it was good.
Not
it was
a bad
all
bit.
good. It was literally like 6 people. For some reason, I talked my way into like the earliest screening of Interstellar. I don't know how. And it was awesome. And I had a great time. I was completely overwhelmed by it.
You loved it right out the gate.
Loved it right out of the gate. But also, like, in IMAX, it is staggering. Like, just the space photography, like, the size of it.
Yes.
And I remember being very overwhelmed, like, literally, like, my stomach dropping out of my body. You know, like, that's sort of, like, feeling a lot. And then I walked out, and Richard and Katie were like, and I was like, oh, yeah, no, I think I liked it.
So I saw it with Derek. We were both very, very excited to see it. And then the second we walked out, it's a thing. Derek and I share opinions on a lot of things. There's certain things that are more on the Griff spectrum. There's certain things that are more in the Derek spectrum where you have a lot of commonalities, but then there are the further reaches.
Right.
And a lot of times I've gone to go see a movie with Derek opening night that we're both really excited for. And we walk out and one of us is like, that's a masterpiece. And the other one's like, this is not my kind of thing.
Okay.
You know?
Like anything in particular? Give me an example.
Like I think his favorite movie of the decade is Take Shelter.
Yeah, I think we're on the same spectrum.
Right.
With
And
that
he
one.
walked out of Take Shelter and was like, holy shit. And I was like, I thought that was solid.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
Yeah, I agree.
But I remember taking him to see Synecdoche, and I was like, "This is my fucking movie," and he was like, "Not my kind of thing."
Yeah, right.
You know?
It's not like you didn't like it exactly. It's more like, yeah, well, I see the artistry here, but not my thing.
Right. We have that kind of thing. You know, it's very rare that one of us will like hate a movie that the other loves.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But this was a weird example of he walked out and was like, "Yeah, not my kind of movie," and I was like, "I think I like it." Like, I wasn't fully standing for it.
Yeah, I was very sure that I liked it. Definitely understood that the last hour was going to throw a lot of people off the train, essentially.
Sure.
You know, like a lot of people who had maybe been enjoying the movie would be like, fuck that. No. And definitely understood that it was very Nolan-y.
Yes.
So anyone who had like the traditional Nolan issues would be like, well, this is almost like it's all of it inflated, right? It's like sort of maximized.
Yes. This feels like his most Nolan-y movie in a lot of ways.
I mean, it's literally. I mean, we'll get into it. But I really liked it, and in Katie and Richard's defense, I think both of them eventually sort of have come around more to it. I don't know if they think it's as good as I think it is.
Sure.
But, I think they both told me that like on second viewing they were like more dialed into the movie.
It is a movie that I think has weirdly kind of grown since it came out. I mean, the people who don't like it stick with not liking it.
Yeah. It's not like it's become a masterpiece, universally regarded or anything, but yeah.
But I see a lot on film Twitter the take of like, I can't believe I wrote off Interstellar as this when I saw it.
Right. Yeah. Which I kind of can't believe it either.
I think now I hadn't seen it in full since I saw it in theaters.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
I can't sleep at night ever.
Mm-hmm. Congrats.
Thank you. That. So I watch stuff when I'm trying to fall asleep.
Sure.
And I have a couple times said, it was on like Amazon Prime, a great video service.
Oh yeah, very good. Mm-hmm.
Really
Streaming.
good company. Good company. Good bit rate.
Good bit.
Good bit rate.
Are they pro bits?
Pro bit rate, no SMIT rate. They're the opposite of us.
Yeah.
But I would throw it on sometimes. But the first hour of that movie, I will say, is calming in a way that actually would put me to sleep.
No, I was about to say, I could almost see. I find this movie incredibly soothing.
I do too.
And the first hour is definitely the most soothing because it's like farms and the music is very quiet and choral.
And I said, when we did our mailbag episode and people asked what our comfort food movies were, I said that I weirdly fall asleep to The Master a lot. Mm-hmm. And this has that same kind of like Hoyt van Hoytema, long shot, very like in control, masterful actors having like low volume conversations, the same sort of like kind of music temperature.
It's like your ASMR, basically.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Right. Hoyt van Hoytema movies are my ASMR.
Well, if he was going to replace Wally Pfister, he got a good guy.
Yes. There was a point in time when I thought I had found my new thing that helped me go to sleep, which was ASMR videos where people go through their Criterion collections.
Oh, that sounds nice.
It's so good, and there are only like 4 of them.
Yeah,
like I ran out.
You've run out, right?
They're so good. Also, like 2 of them were like, the girl's like, these actually aren't my DVDs, they're my boyfriend's. So she's like going through the movies, but she hasn't seen any of them. Just kind of annoying where she was like, this looks very artistic. It looks like they're good supplements. It just annoyed me because in the same video, she puts in some things that aren't Criterion. It's like very clear that it's not her collection. I'm only talking about one. It's one specific.
What is it? I really have to know.
And
is it Be Cool? I'm trying to think of the least Criterion movie. Is it National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1?
I remember the one I remember her including is a steel book of The Big Lebowski.
Sure, right.
Like Criterion would ever release a steel book.
I just imagine you like jerking off watching this and then being like, getting
I'm just trying to sleep, David.
Oh boy, no, I know.
I'm like Detective Dormer.
It's like, no,
I'm
it's like,
taping cushions to the window and watching Criterion ASMR, and I'm just trying to sleep. I'm so tired. I've been working since February, and
you're
no
a
one will
tired
let
boy.
me sleep.
You're a tie boy. But you know how people like you like jerk off to your appearance in what's it called?
That's not true.
Fort Tilden.
That is not true.
And they cover your face.
People do that. I don't do that.
No,
Other
you don't
people
do that. No, I'm saying you made the joke about this once.
Right. That people have to masturbate to me because I'm nudity
but
adjacent.
They like cover. They put their hand on over you. You cover the Steelbook of the Big Lebowski with your palm. That was my bit.
Great bit.
Thank you.
Half a comic.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It was a little sweaty in delivery.
Well, you argued with me through the bit.
I did. I'm still riled. I'm riled. I'm tired and I'm riled. So I've rewatched the first 30 minutes to an hour. Thank you.
So you've rewatched the beginning of the movie a lot.
A couple times.
Uh-huh.
A couple times in the last year, I'd say 2 or 3 times I've tried because I never want to I fall asleep watching it last night. Let me pick up where I left off. I felt like I had to watch the whole thing from beginning to end.
It's a very rewarding experience if you watch the whole thing.
I think it's a movie about. It's a movie about time, obviously, and Christopher Nolan is obsessed with time. But it also is. There's just something about sticking in it and riding it through. I always would restart it. I'd never made it through to the end since it came out in theaters until last night.
Okay.
I watched it after the premiere.
Are you crazy?
I'm a lunatic.
I almost texted you on Sunday or Monday to say Griffin, watch Interstellar today.
Yeah,
watch it as soon as you can.
You really should have done that.
Because it's very long and I just want you to have seen the movie and not be faced with having to fucking watch it,
Yeah.
at the last minute.
I really wish you had done that.
I put my phone, I was like, I can't run his life for him. I feel like I bother him too much. I put my
you
phone
should
away.
run my life.
Yes.
My life is in shambles. You should have tapped on those books on the bookcase and sent me a message to watch Interstellar last Saturday. David.
I'm making dust binary or whatever.
Okay, so for the listener at home, that is ostensibly what David's doing.
Yeah.
But the way he's acting it out is it looks like you're fencing. There's something very regal. You have.
It's just funny in the Tesseract when he does that, where he's like, God, what do I do? Bang the books. Okay. And then he has to reach over and make with his hand these dust things. Which is the beginning of the movie. Exactly. We can dive right in.
On the bookshelf.
Is the bookshelf, and the dust is gathering. It's sort of floating down.
You've heard about Ghost in the Shell. What about Ghost in the Shelf?
You know what? He actually just nailed the whole plot of Interstellar right there. Ghost in the Shelf. That's what it is.
I nailed it.
Yeah. Hey, Ben. You didn't introduce Ben. Do you not want to? Are you that tired?
A little bit. I kept on. I was like, do I have the energy yet to
All right.
I'm afraid I'm gonna start driving up and then lose energy and have to recede down the incline. Producer Ben, hi.
Are you?
Hey. Producer Ben.
Oh, here we go.
Ben Deucer.
Oh, okay.
Poet laureate.
Yes.
The fuckmaster.
Yeah.
Paz.
What's up?
Mr. Positive. Dirt by Penny. Soaking Wet Penny.
And speaking of dirt, this is a dirty ass movie.
This is a dirty ass
good
movie,
point.
and it's a wet movie.
It's wet. All right. Here's a new thing. I wrote this. I like a good dirty actor. I like
You
when
wrote
actors
that
have
down.
to
It's
get
underlined.
dirty.
It's underlined.
Because they're on set dirty as hell all day. That's so
true.
fun.
You have
It's
to be
so fun
dirty
for me.
right? And it's sometimes even it's let's get some more dirt back on him.
Oh, can we get the
dirt's
dirt
left.
boy out? All right, dirt boy.
And then Ben comes out. He's in a giant hamster wheel. Let Dirt Boy out. He's like, rah, rah, rah.
There's a character in the Tick. It's not a spoiler because she's one of the main characters.
Well, also, this will probably be posting after the Tick is online.
It will. I hope you all like it. But this character, Miss Lint, who's one of the main villains,
Yes.
who has electric powers.
Uh-huh.
But as a side effect of that, she has this static electricity sort of down effect when she's not powered on.
Okay.
So
Lint,
all this
I get
lint
it.
constantly sticks to her.
Right.
So on set, they just have a bag of dryer lint, and in between takes, they just have to put lint all over her face.
That's great.
It was just great to watch a makeup person come in and just apply just sprinkle lint. Ben is our finest film critic.
He is.
Yeah.
And he loves this movie.
He loves this movie. which gives it a lot of credibility in my eyes.
Mine too, yeah.
And of course, he's graduated certain titles with, of course, a different main series, such as Kylo Ben, Priest, Ben Kenobi, Ben Jean Lambert, it's anything, Ailey Benz with a $, and a Warhouse.
Good job.
Great.
He's gonna need a new Nolan name, and I'm still into Producer Bane more than any of the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ones I'm hearing the most are Mabento,
Yeah,
Producer Bane,
right.
Hazal Ghul,
Terrific.
and then someone threw out for this movie Ben Durance.
Yeah, I loved that, but that's pretty.
No one's gonna fucking get.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty obscure.
Yeah.
But I mean, he has endured a lot from us.
He has endured a lot.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And he Ben-septed us.
He did.
That's true.
So this movie, but Ben was texting us very excited yesterday about how much he loved this movie. You had never seen it before.
I'd never seen it.
You skipped it in the theater.
Yeah, but it was so good. I got very emotional at the end of the movie. I loved it. I like space movies. I like movies about time.
Yep.
And this was a movie where, little confusing.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
it
It's
pays
tense.
off at the end.
I will say the first time I saw it was in IMAX, and it had the classic IMAX problems where like some of the dialogue drops out in weird ways, and when there's a lot of action going on, you're kind of like, what are they saying? And this is a movie. It's not like Dunkirk. They say things that are important.
A lot of talking.
So and then I saw it a second time, and it definitely helped clarify things for me.
I'll say right off the bat, because now we're going to dig into the movie.
Yeah.
Here's my thing with it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what Ben just said. I fucking love movies about space. I love movies about time. Two of my favorite subjects, right?
Space and time, baby.
Love them.
Einstein, he put them together.
Put them together.
Yep.
Doctor Who? Doctor Me. I'm the one who loves space and time.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for that.
No. You're welcome. I have always, and by always I mean the two times I've watched it in full, had a very hard time connecting with this movie emotionally.
Interesting.
And I know the people who love it.
I think other people feel the same way as you, right?
Agree.
Yeah.
But the people who love this movie are like, whoo, hits me like a ton of bricks. When it fucking pays out at the end, ooh boy, I was inconsolable.
I'm definitely right there.
It crushed me. And I sit there watching this movie and I go like, I love a lot of what's fucking happening here.
But your problem is
it doesn't break through for me.
Do you see like the bricks land, but they just don't land on you?
Yes.
Right. It's sort of like, and you're like, they're the bricks. And there's like some brick dust on you, maybe?
It still mostly exists as like an intellectual exercise for me when I'm watching this movie.
That's fair.
Which is frustrating because I want to be very emotionally affected by it. I find the concept of the movie very emotionally affecting. And when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh shit, this is going to destroy me.
Right.
Like I remember choking up at the trailer and I was like, oh my God, it's about a dad being trapped, like trying to get back to his daughter.
You've already said on the podcast how much you loved the promotional like stuff for this movie. Like you loved the trailers. And stuff.
I think the trailers for this movie were masterful.
Yeah.
And fall into that category of trailers that I consider to work on their own as fully functional short films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I think that trailer has an arc to it
and
tells a really complete story.
I should rewatch it. My Twitter avatar, which is sort of a picture of me with like, it looks like I have my head in my hands.
Celebrating.
It's actually me watching the Interstellar trailer when it posted, the day it posted.
Oh, really?
Because I worked at The Wire, and Joe Reed, past and future guest, who used to sit across from me, took a picture of me because I was obviously so like lost in the trailer.
It looks like you're having a nervous breakdown.
It looks like I'm freaking out. I'm not. I think I'm actually just sort of like concentrating and sort of blocking out a little bit of light around my eyes so I can see it a little better.
Yeah. The dying of the light. Yeah.
Exactly. Rage. She was only 19 years old.
She was only a podcast.
So, this is not like a Matrix Reloaded where I have some like thought through, like theory of the movie or something. You're not going to tell us that Seraph's a password? Exactly. Well, that was good though when I did that, right?
Yeah.
Use the login screen, baby.
Yeah, you fucking killed it.
Seraph's a login screen. I love that idea. Someone's like, I hate the Matrix Reloaded. And I turn in my chair and I'm like, Serif's login screen. And they're like, what? They like turn into green code.
Do you remember what my reaction was when you said that on the podcast?
I just remember you getting very excited. I don't remember. Yeah.
I believe it was a frustrated excitement where I went like, oh, God.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You were like, nah, I already like it more.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's good.
It's working.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like I injected something into you. You're like, I can feel it. It's like fire in my veins.
Also, all those keys.
Oh, so many keys.
A lot of keys. That's Ben's finest moment.
That is, I believe, when we named him the finest film critic,
did,
actually.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but take us through the movie. David,
right.
It starts on a shelf.
It starts on... but no, I was just going to finish, but like, this isn't... I just love this movie.
Yes.
Very deeply. Like, that's mostly what it is. It's more of a Jerry Maguire.
Okay.
Where someone's like, if someone's like, I don't like this scene, and I'm like, oh, but that scene's great. All of the scenes are great.
Sure.
It's great.
Everyone's
great.
You don't got to take. You
Not
just
really.
love
I mean,
it. You're jamming on this
I
movie.
think I know what he's going for. Like,
Sure.
I have a take on like the themes. He's like plumbing and all that. But like,
Yeah.
But like, it's not like I have some radical take. And I also just like, it's really a movie for me because it is about space. I love space movies. It's my kind of space movie. It's looks so good. It has a
looks
robot
so
called
good.
TARS.
It does have a robot.
It has a wormhole called
TARS.
Wormhole.
Yeah.
It's got 3 different planets that they go to, which is like my favorite shit in the world. Is the like thinking about how planets would work. Like,
Sure.
I love it.
You know who doesn't get enough credit? Case.
Case is good too.
I feel like everyone always talks about this movie like there's
Case
only
and TARS, they
one
both do a lot of work.
weird brick robot.
But TARS goes into the wormhole. I mean, to the black
TARS
hole.
is a hero. He also saves Brand.
Yeah,
from
he
the
does.
water.
He does. He does. Does he? Or is
Yeah.
that Case?
I thought that was TARS.
I can't remember. That's the thing. Like, Case is definitely doing shit too.
Yeah. I mean, you do think that all brick robots look the same.
I mean, they are basically designed to. Anyway. Starts on a shelf. Starts with like Hans Zimmer, greatest score he's ever done, in my opinion.
I kind of agree.
Right up there with what my other option would be, which is The Thin Red Line, which I think is like a perfect score as well.
Apparently, Nolan went to him and gave him like a series of restrictions, right?
No, well, the story I've been told or read is like he went to him and the movie wasn't. He certainly didn't show him any of the movie. He gave him like these pages that was like about the emotional themes of the movie, essentially about the father-daughter shit. And he was like, I want you to read this and I want you to like write some music about it. And he came up with a lot of the main themes, and Nolan was like, perfect, like great, start from there and just keep going.
I just remember hearing, and I don't remember where I heard this. I think it was an interview with Zimmer where he said that Nolan came to him and he said like, I want to avoid the typical sound that a score for a movie like this would have.
Right.
So he asked
for
him
a
not to
space
use
movie.
like string sections.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, he didn't want strings. He didn't want like big drums,
right?
Because he knows he's making a 2001
right.
kind of movie.
But that's what's sort of immediately, because the trailers used Dario Marinelli's score from V for Vendetta.
Interesting. Okay,
which is a really excellent score, but it's a
Right.
very emotional, traditional kind of
Right.
swelling, uprising
orchestral score.
Yes,
Yes.
beautiful score, very underrated score. But immediately when this movie started, and then it has this weird like Hans Zimmer haunted organ music.
Yeah.
That feels like it's like what fucking the abominable Dr. Phoebes would play when like bringing
Absolutely.
people into his lair. I was like, oh, this is strange. Like this
very melancholy.
Yes.
Organ.
Yes.
A lot of organs.
Right. Which is a very different sound than you're expecting to hear in this movie.
It is.
Yeah.
And then when the score is more up tempo, it's this sort of like clanging loud organ that's incredibly repetitive.
It sounds like a panic attack.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
And the score is also very useful in like the movie's like most quietly audacious thing, which is just when McConaughey leaves the farm and you're on his face crying.
Yeah.
And the score's going wild.
Yeah.
I think it's called "Stay" is the track on
Okay.
and then you cut right from that right to the rocket launching. No explanation of like anything else. Like, there's no more like building the team or, how like them talking about like what will we do. It's just right to the rocket launch.
Well, and that's
because he's made the decision to leave. So he's like, we're leaving.
But also a big element of this movie that we have to discuss, which is one of the most audacious things, is silent space.
Yeah, he does that, which is great. Which Gravity, which should come out a year before, also I believe I know embraced. There's no sound in space.
Sure.
Right? And the first time I really remember that happening was in is it in 2001? I mean, 2001's so music heavy.
Right, that's the thing. I mean, it's not just that he doesn't have sound effects. It's the fact that he has these stretches, these long extended shots where you're seeing crazy things happening. There are no sound effects, and there's no music, and there's no dialogue.
Right.
That it's just a stunning amount of silence for a movie, especially when you're in like a fucking IMAX theater and you're used to all the bombast.
It's very overwhelming.
When suddenly it was just like, an image that looks like it's out of a planetarium documentary, but in the context of a narrative feature.
Yes.
Yes. Is very powerful.
Right. And you're not hearing the sort of like anything. Any kind of engine noise, or as you shouldn't, because there's no sound in space.
And seeing it at midnight screening with a bunch of, it was the audience, mostly Nolan bros.
Mm-hmm.
Like a pin could have dropped because everyone was just like, what the fuck is this movie?
So I should say, it actually...
I think Ben has something to say. He's sticking up his finger.
I just had a question. Is this the start of spinning in space?
What do you mean? Please just explain. I don't know. Griffin died.
So like
that one killed him.
So you know how like now
welcome to Blank Check with David.
Now ships they spin so that you can
have gravity.
Yeah,
it's a theoretical concept.
Is that
There's no way to do that.
Is this the start here though?
No. Sunshine has the same idea
of
spinning to create like G forces strong enough that you could walk. There's no actual like that's theory.
Thing.
Like
that's
that.
all.
No one's ever pulled that off.
But it's spinning in space is now a thing.
Love to spin.
It's all of them are going to have spinning now.
Spin time. I guess so. This is amazing. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I just want to cry.
Just enjoy. Just cry.
Exactly.
Just enjoy.
I had that thought about it.
I can't think of anything.
Spinning in space now.
I can't think of anything else. Oh, you know what? Armageddon actually has a spinning in space concept when they land on the Russian space station with Peter Stormare.
Okay.
And he's like, yes, I will now do spinning. Because they're just like, we can't fucking do 20 minutes of the movie in zero G. Like
2001 has the spinning wheel as well, but it's
but he's
obviously
like
a different kind of...
Right. But no, it's all that. Yeah, spinning.
Yeah, spinning.
Love space movies. So Earth is having a Dust Bowl crisis. Right after The Shelf, we see these images from the Ken Burns documentary, The Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
Right from it, except for the interview with Ellen Burstyn.
Yeah.
Where they're talking just about how the Dust Bowl worked, where there was a lot of dust.
Right.
And the crops were failing.
Right. It's weird because like Nolan's it feels like he's pulling a Reds.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Where you're like putting a documentary element into a narrative
but
feature.
It's about the future.
Right.
But it's about the past.
And you can kind of tell the
those people are too real to be actors, except for Ellen Burstyn. You're like, that's Ellen Burstyn. Right. But she's good. She fits in.
Agreed 100%. She's a great actress. She pulls it off. But you kind of immediately go like, oh, this is weird. He's used footage of people who lived through the real Dust Bowl and repurposed it as people talking about from the past, from the future.
Yeah, no, right.
The events that we're about to see unfold.
Because what we are actually seeing, and when you're seeing it the first time, you don't even think about this.
Right.
But like then later you might realize like, oh, if they're old, that means we do survive the Dust Bowl because we survive it so that someone can make a documentary about it.
Right.
And what we're seeing is like museum pieces in the future space stations humans are going to live in.
The replica
after
house.
escaping Earth.
Yes. Right.
Which I love.
I love that. Yeah, I do.
I love any, like in AI, I love any movie where there's like monuments to us. Anyway.
Blue Fairy.
So Earth is failing. This is a movie, we'll talk about it, that is was inspired by science. Like, like it was like Kip Thorne, this physicist, wrote like a story treatment for Steven Spielberg. That was the genesis of Interstellar.
Right. Hired Jonathan Nolan to write it.
Right. Steven Spielberg basically liked this book that Kip Thorne had written. He was like, I want to do a sci-fi movie that's rooted in like actual concepts of astrophysics. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he hires Jonathan Nolan to work with Kip Thorne and I think another scientist.
Yeah.
And like, why don't we do that? Make that real movie. And
Spielberg's got a lot of things in the hopper. So
this is like in 2008 or 7 or something. It's sort of around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all we know is like it's a movie about like black holes. That's all that was like really released. But I'm just saying this because the crop failure shit, that's actually the most fanciful part of the movie.
Yes.
There's no Dust Bowl that would just ravage Earth.
Right.
I mean, that we can conceive of it.
Sure.
But still, it's a cool idea.
It's a cool idea.
My favorite thing about this, and I know so much about this fucking movie, is he shot the movie in Oregon.
Okay.
Because he wanted them to plant tons of real cornfields near mountains where none exist, because cornfields are all in the flat part of America. But he wanted the extremely strange look of cornfields underneath mountains, which of course is not something any viewer is really going to pick up on, except maybe quietly, like in the back of their head, you'd think about that.
My man planted corn on mountains.
Isn't that wild?
My man planted corn on mountains.
Because the idea is that's the only crop that is surviving in America now is corn.
Yeah,
like it was some asshole next door tried to make some okra. Now he's got to burn it. Like
I do love that scene where they have the dinner later in the movie and it's just 4 different types of corn.
Yeah, he's like, eat your fritter.
Right.
Yeah,
it's great. All they got is this gross corn. What I was getting
and
at was
they have popcorn at the ballpark too.
Yeah,
John Lithgow doesn't like it. Yeah.
I want a hot dog. I can't do John Lithgow. My voice is too burnt.
Hard to do, but if you get him right, he's an awesome
I feel like I
impression.
could do it if I was batting at full voice.
Right.
You know how people bat at full voice?
Yeah.
What I was going to say was just that, yes, the script was developed as a Spielberg movie first.
Right.
And then it wasn't really going anywhere.
No, I can't remember if Spielberg just had... Oh, no, it was that Spielberg moved DreamWorks from Paramount to Disney,
right,
and could no longer make it.
Correct. That's
because
what it is.
This was under Paramount.
Right.
Interstellar was under Paramount.
So
Jonah was like, hey, why don't you want to do it, Chris? Like, you can do it.
Chris had like crazy blank check status at this point,
for sure,
and could make whatever he wanted, and had so much cachet that he was able to go to Paramount and go like, you own the script that I want, but also I'm always rolling with the bros.
Yeah, so the bros have to be involved.
Yeah, get my bros in here.
The Warners.
Yeah. So it's a co-production.
Do you want to know something, though?
Yes.
In exchange for bringing in the Warner Brothers to co-finance this movie,
Friday the 13th,
Paramount was allowed to co-finance Friday the 13th and have a stake in a future film based on South Park.
Oh, right.
Bizarre.
They thought they were going to make another South Park movie.
Yeah. And also, they agreed to let Paramount co-finance a co-determined A-list Warner's property, which I believe I don't think it's ever happened. Legendary, meanwhile, who has also worked with him on the Batman movies,
right? Who was at Warner Brothers forever, now is at Universal.
Agreed to forego being part of Batman versus Superman in exchange to be part of this. So people really wanted to make this movie.
Yeah,
they were like, this is Nolan. It finally gets agreed to in 2012, right after Dark Knight Rises, or maybe right before. So they're like, this is Nolan. Inception worked. Like pushing all the chips in.
Making an original Nolan film is now like as big as making a Batman movie.
Right. They were just, this is the hottest thing in the world.
We
got to be part of it. I don't get Batman versus Superman. Fuck it. Who are they? I've never heard of them.
That deal is so weird because it's like Friday the 13th was Paramount for a while.
Yeah.
And then the franchise went over to New Line, and New Line made like the last 4 of them.
Sure. The really shitty ones. Right.
So that was like this weird child that was like split between the two of them. And then Comedy Central used to be Warner Brothers and Paramount together. And then in the early 2000s, Paramount bought out Warner Brothers at their stake.
Right.
So like South Park is the other thing that's like split between the two of them.
So weird.
It's like those are weirdly the 2 properties that those 2 studios each have like a stake in. So they were like, I don't know, what can we do to like make this deal worthwhile? There was, for a long time, they said they were going to make another Friday the 13th after the last one. And for whatever reason, I was listed on that IMDb for a really long time. There was like Friday.
I could see Jason burying a machete in your face.
They had a date because it was linked up to 1 year where Friday landed on the 13th.
It's always like when's Friday the 13th in October. Like, yeah, exactly.
So I think the last remake was like 2009 or 2010, and then they were going to do one in like 2013. And I was listed. There was no information. There was no director attached. I don't know how that happened because I added myself to the Beverly Hills Cop 4 IMDb page. Of course, we know this. I listed myself as Axel Foley Jr. because I was trying to will it into existence. But that was me. That was me playing a goof. Someone else added me for Friday the 13th, and it got picked up by other places. For a while, like I get tweets from like horror fans asking me,
like, what's up with Friday the 13th?
I was like, I did nothing. I haven't auditioned.
Okay. All right. I'm getting back to the context. Now I'm barreling through this context.
Okay.
I love it.
Context.
So Jonah
Sure.
wrote the screenplay. Chris takes this screenplay, throws out most of it, which is kind of interesting.
Yep.
But he kept the first 45 minutes to an hour, the Dust Bowl stuff.
Interesting.
That was the stuff he kept. He changed.
That's my favorite section of the movie.
Interesting. He changed everything, all the space stuff. I believe you can find the original script. I've never read it.
Okay.
And he saw an early cut of the film Mud, the Jeff Nichols film, speaking of, and saw Matthew McConaughey in it and thought, this guy is kicking ass in this movie.
And that was sort of the beginning of phase 2 of the McConaissance.
Yes.
McConaissance had just started percolating.
Right, because Magic Mike comes out in 2012, but a little later.
Right. I think Lincoln Lawyer isn't cited enough as...
That is the beginning.
Right. That's a solid little movie.
Right. When it came out, people were like, ugh. And then it came out, like before it came out, people were like, ugh, McConaughey's so fucked up. And then they see it and they're like, oh, actually, you know.
It did surprisingly well.
Right.
Then it's
his 2012
Magic Mike
supporting role sort of renaissance thing.
Ooh, killed it. Got close to an Oscar nod for Magic Mike. Didn't get it. Mud had screened at Cannes, but like didn't really blow up there. It wasn't very well received. Jeff Nichols talked about how he got critically trashed, and it didn't come out until like a year later.
But it actually also did surprisingly well.
It was a very big hit.
And so, but I just think it's interesting. It's always fascinating to me how these things are not, that these trends happen before the movies have even come out. Like, Dallas Buyers Club comes out a year before Interstellar, but he cast him a year before it came out. Like, but like they just kind of know in Hollywood. Like,
well, I remember reading some interview with Nolan where he said that he went to them and they said, "So who do you want for the lead?" And he said Matthew McConaughey, and they said, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah, you're Christopher Nolan. You can literally get anybody.
Why do you want the Ghosts of Girlfriends Past guy?
Right.
And he said, like, I've seen this movie Mud. I think he's really popping. And then it's like the one time I've seen Nolan pat himself on the back in an interview.
Right.
Where he was like, they thought I was crazy, and now they think I'm really smart that I got them McConaughey before he won the Oscar.
Right, exactly.
And this becomes like his like victory lap movie. Like after
and this is sort of the end of the McConaissance, sadly. Which I think he's so wonderful in this movie.
I think this is kind of secretly his best performance.
It is an outstanding performance.
It's astonishing, and it's a performance that like
it might be,
didn't get any credit at the time because it is
not
so
nearly enough
in service of the movie. It's kind of thankless work because like Dallas Buyers Club, he's like giving it his all, but it's a very showy character piece.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't care for that movie, but I mean he's good.
I don't either. Yeah. I don't like that movie. I think he's very good.
Yeah.
But this is like he's really just kind of like carrying this movie on his back. And it's a complicated performance that he's doing with like this really bizarre economy. He got to this state where somehow it's like he found oil in the ground. It's like at some point in 2011, Matthew McConaughey somehow like found an access port to all of the world's emotions.
Look, he does some amazing stuff in this movie,
right?
Regarding that, yeah,
right. Like he just sort of like tapped into like all of the emotions, and then this movie is like him trying to figure out how to show as little as possible.
That's the thing,
right?
But at and also not let go of his drawl and his sort of like classic.
It's like a real movie star performance too.
I agree.
Like, and he's got the weird physicality. I mean, he's got the weirdest neck in movies.
He does have.
He's
he looks
always
very
at
strange
those odd
in this one.
angles, and he was sort of in this weird.
He looks like Groot.
He does. He's very sinewy in this because it was like post Dallas Buyers Club. Like he's got the weight back, but he's
not
still
quite,
kind of.
Yeah.
There's something a little stretched about him, and tight, and he's got the bronze skin. Like everything's odd about him.
He's tasked with saying a lot of science-y shit.
Yes.
Not as much maybe as some of the other characters, but still a lot. And having these conversations with, especially with the astronauts about relativity and stuff, that should be bad. There's no like it just shouldn't work. He shouldn't be suited to it, and he is very natural with all that stuff, which is great.
Especially, I feel like movie stars with very distinctive personas usually belly flop hard when asked to do that.
Right.
Like, look at, I know it's a very different movie, but like Mark Wahlberg in The Happening.
Sure.
You know, you just go like, that's Mark Wahlberg. I don't buy that he's a scientist.
That's
he sounds like Mark Wahlberg. He looks like Mark Wahlberg.
That's the worst version of it.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
But I feel like I'm not thinking of other examples now, but I feel like there are other examples like that where you just go like, his persona is too big to accept him spouting jargon. You know?
I do.
And somehow McConaughey's like threading this needle in this movie where he's like doing full McConaughey and also fully disappearing into the tapestry of what the movie's asking him to do.
He offered McConaughey the role on the set of True Detective, which he was making.
Mm-hmm.
He goes over to Northern Ireland and he offers Jessica Chastain the role on the set of Miss Julie, her blockbuster hit.
Yes.
Right.
We're going to do Liv Ullmann next for Blank Check. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
He hires Hoyte because Wally Pfister is busy making Transcendence.
Mm-hmm.
He uses even more IMAX than ever before. Hoyte figures out a way to like make a mobile IMAX camera, and there's those pictures on the Dunkirk set where he's got it on his fucking shoulder, and you're like, how the hell did he do that?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, that guy's shoulders must look rough.
He's like Freddie Rodriguez in Lady in the Water with the one big arm.
Yes.
And like they figured out how to put an IMAX camera in a Learjet to do aerial photography. They figured out how to do it for interior scenes. It's crazy. They shot in Alberta and Oregon and places like that for the Dust Bowl ship.
Mm-hmm.
They shot in Iceland on the glaciers for the Glacier Planet. And they
Iceland
shot
from The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, that country?
the weirdest reference you've ever made. Sure. And then they filmed in LA for a long time. You know, they did studio ship.
Okay.
And then the movie came out and I loved it and I cried. Anyway, so Dust Bowl.
And Hathaway, he just said, hey, stick with me, kid.
Well, right. She'd been in Dark Knight Rises. He brings her back. I guess Kane's back.
Yes.
I think that's it, though. Like, it's actually pretty light for the Nolan players.
Well, William Devane, of course, who famously played the president in The Dark Knight Rises.
And now he plays the NASA president or something.
This is one of those movies where it's odd how, like, every little two-line part like that is
someone crazy, like David Oyelowo or whatever. Right, yeah.
Like that point when you...
Topher Grace.
Topher. When they have dinner with the grown-up Casey Affleck and his wife, I'm just like, oh, his wife is just an actress?
Right, his wife is pretty much the only person.
Right, his wife isn't Angela Lansbury. Like, you're like ready for like everyone in this movie to be someone who's like won a Tony.
Oh,
you know?
Boy. Yeah, sure. Who plays his wife, actually? I have no idea. Leah Cairns. Okay.
But isn't even like the nurse at the end of the movie who lets McConaughey in?
She's very familiar.
I think it's what's her name? I always forget her name. She's such a good actress. Who plays the woman who gets kidnapped in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, Lois Smith. Yes, no,
it
yes.
Is, right, it is Lois Smith. Right.
She's the nurse who just directs him to Ellen Burstyn's room.
Right.
There's another nurse character who I was thinking of who's familiar as well.
That's what I'm thinking. And it's like, Nolan's got so much cachet that he could just be like, Lois Smith, you want to come and
You want to do literally just like, oh yeah, it's right over there.
Right.
Yeah.
Why not have every line be delivered by someone who is
He's almost
highly overqualified?
Malik level where people are like, sure, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah,
Yes.
it's fine. Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
What do I do? Great. Yeah.
Because Oyelowo had kind of already popped at this point.
Kind of.
He was building.
He's in the middle of popping.
He's popping. He's mid-pop.
Because it's the same year as Selma, isn't it?
Yeah,
Selma
right?
comes out this year. Anyway.
He'd already reached. Jack reaching.
Yeah. Good job. Thank you. I love you.
For the listener at home, I was reaching.
But not jacking. All
right. David, tell them what I'm doing.
He's jerking off.
And?
Reaching. So in this Dust Bowl world, they live on a farm. There's no like armies anymore. There's no like technology anymore. Really,
kind of given up.
It's basically just like we just got to make food and scratch out and survive. Because there's these sort of unspecified like references to like wars that happened and are done, and like old countries that kind of just don't even really exist anymore. You know what I mean? It's just sort of like and
too much dust.
Just a lot of fucking dust.
Really dirty.
It's very dirty. And like the schools are mad at McConaughey's character, who is a pilot and engineer who now has to run a farm, for like teaching his daughter Murph played by who's young Murph? She's so good.
It's
Mackenzie Foy.
Right.
Yeah, so good.
Excellent.
Teaching her about like the moon landings and shit, because the new thing is like, no, we didn't even go to space. That was all fake, just to gin up money for the Soviets, because like it was like propaganda.
Right. An awesome scene with David Oyelowo and what's her name, Colette Wolfe.
Yeah, who's great.
Who's such a good actress.
Love her.
But the two of them are just like, oh, you're just like bringing in like home run hitters to deliver like a scene of just like laying track.
She's been great on what's it called? You're the Worst recently.
Oh,
anyway,
I need to watch that.
so good in that.
But yeah, I love that notion. I love that notion that America is just kind of like given up,
Right.
And that they've like folded into like, look, it was all lies, like whatever.
It's just we can't go there anymore.
Yeah, right.
But there are weird gravitational anomalies happening at their farm that make dust fall into lines and books fall off the shelf. And Coop, who is McConaughey, Joseph Cooper is his actual name. I don't think anyone.
No one ever calls him Joe.
He's Coop.
Yeah.
Because Murphy Cooper.
More people call him by his middle name, Robin.
He's also Timothée Chalamet, who's going to be a big star this year.
Yes.
In Call Me by Your Name, right?
Yes.
He's young Tom. He's the son.
Uh-huh.
His son likes to farm, but his daughter likes to science.
Right. And he doesn't like that they're already writing off his son. They're saying he can't go to college. College is a very selective thing. They don't want to waste the resources.
At this point, you don't go to college unless you really have to. Just farm.
Right. They want everyone to be farming because that's what we need. So unless you are beyond exceptional, they could just pick up a hoe.
Yeah, it's time to farm.
Pick up a hoe and hoe those fields.
Hoe them away. And then you've got Lithgow.
What do you do with a hoe? Do you hoe or sow?
All right, we got
rake.
We got to move on.
Okay.
Lithgow. Shut up.
It helps break up the dirt.
Lithgow.
What do you call the
is
act
Donald.
of what you do?
Oh, hoeing.
Hoeing. Okay.
Donald, who is his father-in-law.
Yes.
And his wife is dead, which is delivered in this sort of slightly sweaty, convoluted thing where he's like, "Well, we used to have MRI, and that would have got my wife's cancer or whatever." You know, that
we
scene?
lost it at the end.
Yeah, I could.
It was good for a bit.
I'm not trying to do McConaughey.
You were cruising and then you crashed back down.
MRI. I can say it like, you know what I mean? But you know that scene?
Yeah.
Where they're like, your son should be a farmer. And he's like, farming, cancer. I don't know. Like, you know, where he just works it around so he can tell us that his wife died of cancer.
He's also, you know.
He's great in the scenes.
I'll say this. You know, like Nolan is not a filmmaker who overuses close-ups, which I think a lot of people do these days.
Sure.
I think too many movies are shot as just shot, reverse shot, close-up, and it's just faces. So close-ups don't have any power anymore because you abuse them. But also, you look at McConaughey in this movie, it's like, God, that's a full-body actor. Like, he sits weird.
You're right.
You're
talking about the way
scene.
he cranes and the way he... So
he's always at odd angles like this. Yeah.
What do you like about... Because you just said you like all of this.
Yes.
Why is this... Like, there's the early scene where they snare this drone out of the sky on this sort of chase through the cornfields. That's like this busted old Indian Air Force drone.
Yes.
And it's like a metaphor because they're like, can't we just let it roam around? He's like, it's got to adapt, you know, like it's got to learn to farm.
Okay.
Like the rest of us.
Here are things I like about this.
I'm trying to think of other stuff that happens. Go ahead. They go to the baseball game.
I like that in the way that AI is this weird, like Kubrick filtered through Spielberg thing. This feels like Spielberg filtered through Nolan.
Sure.
There's an interesting kind of handshake going on here. I did not know that backstory that this is pretty much the section that was kept intact.
This is
the Spielberg
the Jonah
draft,
Nolan stuff.
but that makes a lot of sense to me. I think Spielberg would have made this feel a lot more magical. Isn't the world? Because
No, but
it's
I know what you
obviously,
mean. I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying. But
Spielberg-y.
Yes, Spielberg-y. But I like that this is such a mundane, boring dystopia.
Sure.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
it's just like,
I like that too.
this is what it is.
Yeah. And it's like, basically, Earth is basically dead.
Yes.
But it's not, that doesn't mean that we're dead or that the people, you know, like that the plants are dead.
Right.
It's just like, we just kind of quietly know we're close to it.
I love that kind of tone, which I think this movie conveys perfectly. And I like that they don't over-explain stuff in this section of the movie, that there's just the kind of like the little details. I think this is when they interweave in a lot of the Dust Bowl talking head stuff, which I just find really interesting.
Yeah, all
in
those
terms
little
of the rhythm
details
of
of
the
like
movie.
turning your plates
Love
over, all
Love
that shit.
And then the other thing I think this section of the movie has going for it, aside from the fact that visually I think the shit Hoyt van Hoytema does
It's great.
with these landscapes is unbelievable. I just think this is the section of the movie where McConaughey is so fucking in the pocket because he is so good with the kids.
He's great. His connection with, especially obviously Murph, which is so crucial to what the movie's going to do, is, in my opinion, done very well.
Because this thing that McConaughey tapped into as an actor, where he just found this undercurrent of emotion and figured out how to, you know, restrain as much as possible, use his charisma to keep himself engaging, but not feel the need to show what he's feeling, is really powerful in the stuff with the children, because it feels like a very, very specific depiction of paternal love that I feel like I don't often see actors play in a way that gets me this emotionally. Even just the way he puts his arms around her, or touches the son. There's a very body language. Actor. He's a really interesting actor. It's a little heightened, but I like every moment he's on screen with one of the kids in the movie. I just go like, God, this dad loves his kids so much, and he's so fucking worried for them because of the state of the world. Right. And I find that very heartbreaking.
And he cannot really accept this idea where like that he's being told over and over, which is like, we have to adapt, we have to farm. We can't look at the stars, which is like what he was sort of trained to do when he was an engineer and a NASA scientist.
There's also almost like a Brad Bird element to this section of the movie where it's like an anti-exceptionalism.
Sure.
Like, let's just settle for just pick up a hoe.
Right. That Brad Bird strain,
you know,
very clear.
So this whole section's hitting on a lot of things that I really like, and I just think like McConaughey's like throwing straight he is.
So let me move us through. What happens is they follow these gravitational anomalies that keep fucking everything up around them.
Yes.
And we later learn actually fucked up his big test flight when he was a test pilot, which you see glimpses of in his dreams. But they've been going on for decades, is what I mean. And it takes them to a weird abandoned place, him and Murph, and it's like NASA.
It is NASA.
And NASA, who are operating in secret. They are taken in by TARS, a
good
robot.
Friend. A good friend.
In my opinion, the greatest thing that's ever happened to society. I don't know if you guys agree.
So here's the thing about TARS.
He
fucking rules.
Is a robot.
He's the best.
He is. Is he 3? I think he's 4. 3 or 4.
He's 4.
What do you call it? Like just like fucking what's the word for
I don't know how you even describe it.
It's a very obvious word that I'm not cylinder, but the sort of cuboid shape that's long and thin. Anyway,
a rectangle. What are you?
But in 3 dimensions.
Oh, a trapezoid.
No, a trapezoid is 4-sided. Rectangle and 3.
A rhombus. I'm throwing out terms now.
Too. You're having fun though. I like it. But anyway, yeah, he's 4 rectangles, I guess is the easiest way to put it.
He's like a bunch of popsicle sticks,
right? And he
together
can unfold them into more popsicle sticks if he wants to,
right? And he mostly stays in brick formation, but the 4 popsicle sticks can kind of go out.
And to walk, he like sort of like 2 rectangles, 2 rectangles, 2 rectangles.
Let's say this.
Yeah,
I think we're wasting time describing TARS. If you've seen
People
the movie,
know what TARS is like.
You know what he looks like.
I just think it's kind of delightful to try.
If you haven't seen the movie, look up TARS.
TARS is
great.
Even
if you're not going to watch the rest of the film, look up TARS. You'll thank us later. Trust me. You want to look at TARS.
He is played by Bill Irwin.
The great Bill
Irwin, who does a lot of physical acting on stage. He's
one of our greatest living clowns.
But also a good actor. He does the voice and puppetry of TARS.
Right.
He just does the puppetry of Case, the other robot. Josh Stewart is the voice of Case.
Who is Josh Stewart?
Wait, I could have sworn it was Jeffrey Tambor.
It is not Jeffrey Tambor. Wait, you actually? Oh no, go ahead.
Oh my God. I'm so disappointed.
Why? What, Ben? What are you talking about?
Well, I wrote TARS as Jeffrey Tambor in Arrested Development because I the whole time I was convinced that was him.
I don't know.
Is this a bit, or did you actually think it was Jeffrey Tambor?
I have no idea if it's a bit or not.
You know, I wine and dine them, but I don't let them tell me what to do.
It's my favorite Tambor line in Arrested Development.
Did you write that down word for word? You were reading it off of your notepad.
I wrote it down.
I don't let them tell me what
it is. That is arguably the funniest thing that ever happened in Arrested Development, right? I don't. Like when he turns around and looks at the dolls. That's why, in my opinion, season 2 is the best of Arrested Development, because Tambor in the attic is so weirdly rewarding. They like write themselves into the biggest corner where he can't leave the attic, and they find so many ways to have fun with it.
I'll tell
The
you
one where he like uses the hot tub to make ramen or whatever.
my
Knocks himself out.
my single favorite joke is from that plot line. My favorite Arrested Development joke is, Dad, I have to tell you, I have Pop in the attic. And he goes, the mere fact that you called that tells me that you're not ready.
But there's so many like where it's like hiding Pop like from the Nazis or whatever. Like the Anne Frank jokes. Anyway. No, Tars is voiced by Bill Irwin. Josh Stewart's just like an actor.
Okay.
He's in The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, interesting.
He plays Barsad.
Okay.
I don't know who that is.
Irwin said when he got hired, he didn't know what he was playing, and then he thought he was just playing the voice of the robot, and then he was like, oh, fuck, this is why they hired me, because they want me to operate this brick.
He operated it, and they digitally removed him, which is wild.
I think there are a couple shots. I feel like when Tars turns into like full asterisks,
yeah, sure, that's CGI.
Then it's full CGI, but most of the movie, it's like...
Full asterisks, by the way, perfect.
The best.
Well put.
When that happened for the first time in the movie, I could not stop giggling.
I was so happy when that happened. And it's in a very stressful moment of the movie.
Yes.
And why it's so good is when it happens, you are very stressed out because Tars has to rescue her, and you're like, he's so slow. How is he going to get there? And then he goes like... and then starts rolling, and you're like, I can't believe I didn't think of that. I'm so happy. We will drop in David Rees right here.
Can we play it now? Let's
play
it
right
let's
now.
Let's explain it. Let's talk about
Yeah.
So David Rees, friend of the show, past guest.
Yeah, he's on the
Brilliant
AI
man.
app. A great friend of ours and of mine.
I would say I
great
recently
guy.
flew Delta, and season 2 of Going Deep with David Rees was available there, which is not very easy to find. So
Very
if you're on
hard
an
to find.
airplane,
Take
great
Delta.
way to spend your time.
When I was talking to him about this movie, he was like, I didn't really love Interstellar, but I love Tars. I love that bit where he turns into a thingy and he rolls around. And he was like, could I just like do 5 minutes on Tars and you drop it into the episode? That was what he asked of me.
So
And
we're going
I
to play
said, yeah.
David Rees's. This is a new segment we're calling Tars Talk with David Rees.
Hi guys, this is David Rees with your Interstellar Robot Report. When David told me you guys were discussing this Christopher Nolan movie, I was very excited because one of the few things I remembered about it was the moment when the robot just goes completely buck wild on the water planet and basically turns into a fidget spinner and hauls ass to save the lady scientist. The only other thing I remember from the movie, of course, was the 9-dimensional Hallmark movie bookshelf tesseract. I do think this is a really unsatisfying movie. It's what I would call a dumb, smart movie, as compared to something like Mad Max Fury Road, which is a smart, dumb movie. I think for all the praise that people heaped upon this movie for its scientific rigor in terms of accurately visually rendering a wormhole, I think a lot of the actual important science and time travel and creating tesseracts and stuff is completely incoherent. And so I kind of feel like Christopher Nolan is having it both ways, which is that he gets some of that yay science cred that bolsters what to me just seems like a total gooey mess where gravity and love are the strongest forces in the universe. I mean, I'm sure gravity is. I'm not a physicist. Love, I'm not so sure about. But anyway, you didn't have me on to discuss my pretentious intellectual judgments of the physics and metaphysics of Interstellar. I came on because I wanted to talk about Tars. And then I have to admit to you, David, that I realized on rewatching the movie that I actually don't like Tars at all. I like Case, the other robot. I find Tars's humor setting and style of joking, again, I feel like this is part and parcel with what I would call the recent yay science genre. I think Tars sounds like he would be performing comedy at the same open mic that Matt Damon would be performing at on Mars in his movie The Martian, which is also one of the least funny movies ever made. And so I really don't... I love the look of Tars, obviously, and Case, of course. I like the abstracted anthropomorphism of these robots. I like their sort of impossible movements. To me, maybe this is because I have a extreme imaginative poverty that I'm operating with, but I find those robots and the way they move and the kind of production design of those mechanical beings to be, in a way, more interesting and more rewarding than the super abstract metaphysical tesseract space, which visually looks great. But then the fact that what I was going to say, Matt Damon, what's his name? Matthew McConaughey can just kind of float around from bookshelf to bookshelf, peeping on his daughter in different moments. Felt too literal to me to be kind of do justice to what would be so curious about that actual space. Again, I must refrain from criticizing Christopher Nolan and focus only on the robots. This is the Robot Report, and I should keep that in mind. So I will just say this. This is a long-winded preamble to my nut, which is as follows. I think when they land on, I think it's Miller's planet, the wave planet, to me, that whole sequence is so great. It's everything, it's sci-fi at its best because the environment is very dreamlike. An endless ocean that is also very shallow. To me, that is more authentically dreamlike and surreal and wonder-making than anything in his big dream movie that you guys talked about, whose name I'm completely blanking on, Inception. I think that water planet is fantastic. I think massive 100-story high waves coming out of nowhere is also very, I mean, again, I don't know about the physics of it. You have to talk to Neil deGrasse Tyson about whether waves can operate like this, but I find it very dreamlike and very surreal in a way that I respect in sci-fi. And then when Matthew McConaughey tells Case to go get Anne Hathaway, and he just busts the sickest move I've ever seen a robot ever do. To me, that scene is the highlight of the movie. It has as much imagination and as much kind of bewildering, slightly incomprehensible dustings of future technologies and future ways of being. To me, that scene on that planet is the strongest in the movie and achieves what I think he wanted the entire movie to achieve, which is a true sense of wonder. And I am afraid that I am so literal-minded that to me, the strange physical motion of that robot and the way it moves through the water is much more captivating. And I've spent much more time thinking about that than I ever have thinking about, like, oh, can I go into a wormhole that my future great-grandson is going to plant in the universe so I can hide behind a bookshelf and push books onto a dusty floor so my daughter will see? I mean, the whole fucking movie makes no goddamn sense. Okay, so thank you so much for letting me share my love of the robot Case. I'm Team Case. TARS, your humor setting should be set to 0 because even when it's operating at 90%, it's effectively at 0. Thank you to everyone for indulging me, and goodbye, Blank Check Podcast. See you in hell.
Thank you for that. That has been TARS Talk with David Rees.
Yep.
Tune in next week for another installment.
Of course, during Dunkirk. Yeah, because TARS is in Dunkirk.
He is.
Yeah.
He plays
a hero.
Kenneth Branagh. The thing I love about TARS is it's such a weird design, and then you look at it and you're like, right, why would you design a robot to look like a human?
Right, that's what Nolan's whole argument is, like, that makes no sense. We already have humans.
Right.
Humans can do that shit.
Right. Like, I think about...
And he's supposed to be a war robot. He was built for war, and humans are not built for war. Easy to destroy.
Right.
It would be better if humans were walls that walked.
Right. Yes. A walking wall would win all wars.
Like a very aggro wall, too.
Yes, and you get Mexico to pay for it.
Of course.
But I just remember hearing that the first time Danny Boyle used like a red camera, he was like, what's all this junk? And they were like, well, it's a camera, this and that. And he's like, right, but the way a camera was built and the shape of it and the design of it was because you needed all of that space to house the thing.
Right, it doesn't have to be in that shape.
Right. So like Danny Boyle like famously took apart the red camera and like took all the guts of it and put it in a backpack and just had a wire connect to the lens so that Anthony Dodd Mantle could like operate it. And TARS is like off of that same logic, which is like, well, there's no reason robots
just
to look like a person.
Rethink this. Yeah, exactly.
Just what's the simplest shape? A board.
And just that idea of like the board, it can unfold into a million boards.
Right.
Like it's boards on boards on boards. It's so good. And not only that.
I love TARS! TARS.
At the beginning of TARS, he's kidnapped McConaughey. Murph is missing. Coop thinks something bad has happened, and essentially a wall with a computer screen is yelling at him, and is like, "How did you get here?" in this like booming, scary voice.
But the other weird choice that Nolan makes,
and McConaughey's like, "I'll turn you into a harvester." I don't know. He's trying to fuck with TARS.
McConaughey's slipping away from
Oh, I don't have it there. I only have MRI.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's what I've got. I wish I had it otherwise.
Yeah. Look, if you got a good McConaughey in this business, you're made, baby.
Oh, Dark Tower sketches for days.
Oh yeah, cook that chicken, baby.
Uh-huh.
The thing I love about TARS is that he made a decision not to process or treat the audio in any way.
Right.
So
it sounds like it's coming out of a speaker. Yeah.
Well, no, what I like about it is it sounds like it's clearly the live audio recorded.
Oh, you mean of Irwin. Right.
They don't make it sound like it's coming out of any sort of digital.
No, but
it sounds like he's just a guy in a room. It's weird. It's like disembodied.
It sounds very weird.
Very weird.
It sounds weird to me.
Yeah. But I like that. It's unnatural because they don't.
Unnatural.
The whole point is that TARS has like been designed to make people feel more comfortable. So he's very conversational. He's got this dumb sense of humor,
right. And he has a light,
right.
which is a perfect Nolan idea. I think Nolan would prefer that we all had lights to indicate when we were joking.
Right.
Like if we make a joke and then our eye just went like, and he'd be like, "Great, it was a joke. I get it." And like, do you think he has like a red light for sarcasm? Like he has like various lights. He has like an irony light.
Yeah, it's like a mood ring.
Go on.
No, I just love that it's like this weird disembodied voice that follows this logic of just like, well, you're just supposed to feel comfortable because he's talking like a person,
Right.
But we're not going to make it sound. I think it specifically doesn't sound like it's coming from a speaker, which is what I find interesting about it.
I mean, like, it doesn't matter. We can't get into this right now.
Whatever.
I don't mean it sounds digitized in the right way. I mean it literally sounds like he's blaring, but it doesn't matter.
Yes, to me it sounds like he's yelling his lines from off camera, which is what I like about it.
But what's happening at NASA,
yes,
which we can deal with very quickly, is Anne Hathaway is there.
Brand.
She is Dr. Amelia Brand. She is the daughter of McConaughey's old teacher, Coop's old teacher, Professor Brand, played by a hilariously made to look kind of young Michael Caine, because they're going to need to age him 30 years.
Let's put a little yellow in that hair.
Yeah, his hair looks wild.
Mm-hmm.
I keep saying that, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very friendly.
Yes.
Like they like putting a little scare in old Coopy, but they're friendly.
Old pals.
And as they finally reveal to him, they are NASA. They're operating in secret, and they are dealing with a wormhole that was noticed in space underneath Saturn's rings 48 years ago that is to another galaxy. And in this wormhole are other worlds that we might live on. And they sent people into the wormhole to look at the planets. And now we've got to take ourselves in there. There's 3 that seem viable.
The 3 astronauts. We're the 2 friends. They're the 3 astronauts.
Correct. Competitive advantage in space travel.
Yes. Makes them different from all other space travels.
Exactly. There's 3 planets in one system that seem potentially viable. So they need Coop and some scientists to go in there with a big amount of jizz. They got a jizz probe.
They got a lot of jizz.
Full of human eggs. Like they've got like a population bomb is what they call it.
Yeah, not since Something About Mary has jizz been so central.
And they want to essentially colonize a new world because Earth is dead. They have 2 plans. Plan B is what I just described, which is essentially just go to a new world with the eggs,
get that jizz.
make new people.
Yeah.
Forget everyone else.
Yes.
But plan A is you go...
You see this building here?
Right.
It's a spaceship.
This building is a spaceship. Because of this wormhole and the shit we've been doing, we understand that gravity, which is the most crucial thing in this movie, is like a force that we might be able to harness. So maybe we can make this spaceship take off from Earth without fuel.
Yes.
And like we can start traveling at speeds that are much faster than just like...
And take a lot of people with us.
Exactly.
Save the human race.
Exactly.
And McConaughey's like, why do you need me to drive it? You didn't even know I was alive until, you know, whatever. I mean, the point is... This is when they get into the notion of like this weird sense of destiny, fate.
Yes,
Someone was trying to
right.
communicate with you.
He's been
it's true.
brought here by a gravitational anomaly.
Right.
Gravity is what's driving them over to the wormhole.
I think someone's trying to communicate with us.
Right.
He said,
Because the
you were going to
concept
take
is
off without me. He said, yeah, but we weren't going to be prepared. We got people who've never left the simulator.
right. But
we need
you
a real
have
pilot.
been in a plane. You've
Right
been in
place,
a space plane.
right time.
And wormholes, as anyone who studies theories of relativity know, are artificial constructs. They cannot exist as natural phenomenon because they require anti-energy to exist.
Haha. Yes, we all know that.
Because wormholes are bridges in space-time, and bridges in space-time can't be sustained because there's no such naturally occurring anti-energy.
But if you study dark matter,
Hey, man.
you
There's
know,
a lot of dark
there's
matter shit.
potential because we don't know a lot about dark matter.
We know, like, basically nothing.
Really
about
nothing.
Yeah. And we know even less about warp dark matter. You know, warp dark matter, lead antagonist of Buzz Lightyear Space Command, the short-lived ABC spinoff Saturday morning cartoon show.
it. No, I don't remember that, but
His name was Warp Dark Matter.
I
Let's
do
just all
re-
pause real quick. And
The antagonist of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, the short-lived. ABC was part of One Saturday Morning. It was a maybe 20 episodes.
Can I tell
over
you
2
one thing about it?
seasons.
Can I tell you one thing about it?
Stephen First was on
Can
it
I
as
tell you
well,
one thing
Larry
about that? Because I
Miller.
actually
Yes.
have something to say about
Sure.
Buzz
Well,
Lightyear's
you're right.
Thrice.
It was a show.
Yeah. Was a show.
I once read an interview with the people behind that show in like Entertainment Weekly or something where they said that Buzz Lightyear's hair would never be seen. He'd always be wearing his little cowl that he has.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's kind of like our version of like how you don't see Maris in Frasier. And I remember reading that and thinking like, are these people just idiots and who are bored and they just said that? Or do they really think like, yeah, no, we need like a Maris joke for this Saturday morning space cartoon about Buzz Lightyear.
But I will say, I would have been very unnerved as a child if they ever showed his hair.
It's true. It would be weird. It's just the way they said it where they were like that. And I was just like, that's just how he looks. I don't know if that counts as Maris on Frasier.
Well, but like you see some of the other people take off their hoods. The other
and they like
members of
make
Star
they do
Command.
bits about it is what you're saying.
Yes. I remember I was like so excited for that show. I was pumped, and I went to see they did like a special screening of Toy Story 2
You're so crazy.
at Lincoln Center, and I went with my dad, and they had like some Pixar people there doing a Q&A afterwards and showing like behind the scenes clips and whatever.
Right.
And at the Q&A, someone asked about like, what about the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command animated series? Anything you can tell us? And the guy was like, no comment. And I was like, oh, they don't like this show.
No. Well,
Pixar's unhappy that this show
of course
exists.
they are. They have they're obsessed with their brand not being diluted. I'm sorry. Was I saying I can't remember. It's negative energy is what I'm talking about, essentially. I watched all the extras for this podcast. And one of the biggest extras called The Science of Interstellar has nothing to do with the movie. And it's just Matthew McConaughey slowly explaining like basic concepts of relativity over,
I wanna check that out.
It's great. I mean, over basically like PBS style graphics of like wormholes and shit.
That might honestly like really help me go to sleep.
It's quite nice. Anyway,
That sounds so soothing.
Yeah, let's get back into it. I fuck with Europa.
It's Matthew. I'm sorry. I just want to clarify. So is Matthew McConaughey like? It's essentially like a science documentary.
it's just a science documentary, but instead of like Neil deGrasse Tyson
It's
doing the
Matthew
voiceover,
McConaughey.
it's Matthew McConaughey. You don't see him on
in
screen.
a soothing voice.
Just his voice, his nice voice.
But at a certain point, does it turn out that he actually doesn't know all the science? It's his boyfriend's science, and you can tell because he
And
puts a steelbook in there.
Yeah, and it's a real bummer. Your dick goes soft right away. All right. Essentially, wormholes are
A steelbook. Damn it.
wormholes are artificial constructs.
Yeah.
If they exist in reality, they would disappear within seconds. So for one to
Okay.
stay, someone had to have put it there.
Uh-huh.
So what is motivating NASA so much is that someone seems to be helping us.
There seems to be an intentionality.
They've given us a window into a habitable world, essentially.
A window, more like a shelf.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, and of course, the main thing is we know Cooper hates being a farmer.
Yes.
He doesn't want to live this pathetic life.
He hates his son's going to be a farmer. Everyone's just giving up.
But he does love
We
Murph.
used to reach for the stars.
Now we sit and worry
Now we
about
reach for the tars.
place in the dirt. He has that line.
Say, pass the tars, please.
We have 40 minutes.
Okay, you have to catch a train.
I'm waiting for a train. Okay. So, and as that cut I described, that what I love here is after all this setup, and there has been a lot.
Yeah.
It's just that thing of like, will you do it? and you see him say goodbye to Murph in this very crucial scene where she won't look at him. Like
that's the scene where I was like, I am on the hook emotionally with this movie.
He does it very well.
And then
she does it well too, but he does it beautifully.
That scene is my peak emotional investment in the film. Like I was like, oh man, they're laying out the cards. This movie's going to destroy me. And I never get as emotionally invested as I do in that scene.
That's fine. But I just think it's so good because he does a perfect job being very upset, but also being very frustrated.
I'm coming back.
Yeah, he's trying to soothe her, but he fucks up in some ways where he's like, because of relativistic theory, you'll be as old as me when I come back. And she's like, not helpful.
Nope.
Frightening.
Hard pass on that. And not a performance review way.
Exactly. He gives her his watch.
Yes.
And she throws it against the shelf.
She's not happy.
She's not happy. But I love how he plays both being very sad to leave her and very upset that this is their goodbye.
And he doesn't got a choice. The ship's taking
and
off.
That thing.
Got to catch a train.
Him in the truck driving away crying.
Yes.
And the straight match, like the cut straight to the ship, the rocket taking off, I think is so clever. Where it's like, that emotional decision is what he had to do. Forget the training and everything. We don't care. Like that's what happened.
I remember someone saying in a review for this movie that it felt like McConaughey must have spent straight days looking in the mirror, studying how his face works.
He looks amazing when he cries in this movie.
You know?
Because I feel like, weirdly, the gif of him crying later, which we'll get to, has become this, like, universal internet speak for, like, absolute devastation.
Yeah. It's the new when people would use the clip of George C. Scott in Hardcore.
Right. Freaking out in the theater. Yeah. So they're on the spaceship.
Yes.
Endurance.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty cool.
Cool.
It spins.
Ship.
It's a spinny ship.
Mm-hmm.
It has a couple of Rangers, which are these sort of little glidery things that can land and take off of planets.
Almost just like a top with gliders on either side.
And it's got the population bomb in it and stuff like that.
Bunch of jizz. And his team is him. Mm-hmm.
It's Dr. Amelia Brand, Anne Hathaway.
Mm-hmm.
It is Romilly,
my sister,
who is played by David Giassi, who had played...
Interesting casting choice.
I think he's wonderful.
He's very different than my sister, though. I mean, if we're going to base it off of her...
You're right. But he had played Skinny Prisoner in The Dark Knight Rises, and Christopher Nolan was so taken with him that he cast him in this movie. In between, he's in Cloud Atlas.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
But I mean, he liked him on the set of Dark Knight Rises, I guess. I don't know. He's so... interesting.
It's a really weird performance.
The way he plays it is so great because he's playing it like a scientist in a way that I think is very realistic, rather than the usual like scientist in these ships, in these movies.
Yes,
where they're kind of like, like I don't know, like the more sort of nerdy scientist. He's someone who is so lost in thought at all times.
Yes.
Anytime something's proposed to him, he sort of like looks away and he's like, yes. Like he's so weird.
He's very strange. He's doing something really, really specific.
I think it's so good.
And it's like a big bet. Like, but God, I don't even, I know you're going to hate this. So I'm like hesitant to even verbalize this.
What is it?
I think because he's going for such a specific emotional tapestry of how a scientist would process these sorts of circumstances, I find his performance weirdly jars with Hathaway's.
Yeah, but I think
because it's like it's hard to reconcile both of them being scientists in a way.
Sure. Because
Hathaway is an actor I like a lot.
Yeah. I think this is my favorite Anne Hathaway performance in her career.
See, something about, I don't think there's anything wrong with her performance. Something about this character doesn't work for me, and I still can't figure out what it is.
I love her.
Like watching a second time, I think the part where I don't fully get on board with the movie is something with her.
Yeah.
I'm tarzing on the table here.
He's tarzing away.
Trying to figure it out. But, I think Nolan cast her and cast McConaughey because this is a movie that could be very, very cold. And he wanted to cast two very emotional, available, accessible actors in these lead parts. And Hathaway's like an open wound. She's very vulnerable. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what people who don't like her don't like about her. And those people are wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think she is so... emotionally accessible,
right?
And Gayassi is making this really interesting choice to play someone who like only is able to figure things out in terms of numbers on a spreadsheet in a weird way.
But I think, well, anyway, we got to move on.
Yes.
But he's sort of like more of what we've been told are the scientists that have been sent through the wormhole already, which is these people who are not really attached to anyone on Earth, so they don't have too much of an emotional stake in what happens.
Yeah,
to
fucking
people
nerds and
on Earth.
losers. Yeah,
a bunch of nerds and losers. Whereas she is supposedly that, but she is this more sentimental choice. She's attached to her father, who is on Earth, and she's attached to Wolf Edmonds, who's one of the scientists who already went through, who she apparently was involved with.
Yes, she loves him.
And so that's why I'm cool with her being a little more open than. And we should say Wes Bentley is the fourth scientist,
and he exists.
And he's fine. I think he's fine.
He's
it's
solid.
just, I mean, it was one of those things where he'd been in the Hunger Games, so I guess he was kind of back.
Yeah.
But it was still like, wow, Wes Bentley. Haven't heard from Wes Bentley in a while.
Weird.
He's good. I mean, again, he's pretty chill.
Yes.
So they're on Endurance. They go down for the long nap, and then they wake up, and it's time to go through the wormhole.
So let me ask you,
And I love that scene where where Romilly is listening to the rain in his ears, like he's listening to rain music. Oh, it's so great. Or is it? I can't remember who's listening. Or is it Coop who's listening to it? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. What were you going to say?
How long are they in the nap? Like, what I can never figure out with this movie is how long their expedition is in their time. Do you know what I'm saying?
It would take, like, right now, it would take a couple years to get to Saturn, maybe 3. I think they are going faster.
Okay.
You know, because it is they have a more advanced ship.
Okay.
But so I think the idea essentially is it takes them a while to get to Saturn, but just like a couple years.
Okay.
And then they go through the wormhole, and then where they lose they basically lose 30 years on the first planet.
Right.
After that, they lose barely any time at all until the movie is over.
Right.
Because then it's just real time.
Okay.
You know, then they're just hopping from planet. It's like weeks or months, right?
Sure.
You know,
sure.
But it's the major time advancement obviously is after the first planet.
Yes.
So they go through the wormhole. I love that scene. How do you feel about the wormhole?
It's good stuff. I mean, I could just
that's the
watch
shit
that
in IMAX where you were like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Kip Thorne, who is the physicist, he was very clear that the wormhole should be a sphere.
Yes.
Because wormholes are always circles. They're like doors in space.
And they explain it thoroughly.
Romilly does the wrinkle in time thing where he folds the paper and puts the pencil through to explain like what a wormhole does, which is fold space-time. But the way it works, the wormhole, and you should really watch the documentaries on the Blu-ray.
I will, honestly.
Where
yeah.
Kip Thorne would take scientific equations and give them to visual effects people and then they would put that through their algorithms to see what visual thing was created from it.
That's cool.
It's so cool.
That's
and like
really cool.
he was very satisfied with the black hole because he was like, I'm not sure how this is going to look. And then they showed it to him and they were like, oh, he was like, wow, that's actually great. Like that's what I thought it was going to look like, but it actually looks good, you know? But so the wormhole's this sphere.
This won the visual effects Oscar, right?
It did.
Yeah.
It did. It was the only Oscar it won. It also was nominated for the Sound Oscars and production design and music, I think.
Okay.
A lot of tech noms.
Yeah.
But instead of just going in, they kind of go into orbit around the wormhole and then they just sort of let it overtake them. And then they're just in this like sea of the galaxy that they're entering. And it's all like rumbly. And this weird like blur like touches Anne Hathaway's hand.
She kind of shakes hands with the blur.
Which they think is like these beings that made the wormhole. And then what I love is rather than them exiting, the space just sort of unfolds and becomes new space.
Yeah.
And
Welcome
there's that.
to new space.
It's fucking nuts, man.
Yeah. And the silence of this makes it.
Yeah, the only noise you're hearing is the ship like rattling.
Right.
It's great.
Which makes it very eerie.
I
so
just get
cool.
so
The part where her hand,
happy talking about this.
her
stuff.
hand
it
gets
blurs.
distorted.
Yeah.
That I love that.
It's
visual.
frightening too.
it's
Yeah.
frightening.
And they again, like Nolan was just like he says in the interviews and shit. He's like, I wasn't gonna like sacrifice cinema for the sake of making everything like perfectly scientifically accurate, but I just wanted it to reflect science in a way that people often just don't bother to do, which is fine too. I mean, like, you know, do what you want. But they reach this system that is orbiting a black hole called Gargantua. And the black hole has an accretion disk, which is what a black hole would have, which is like essentially all the shit that's getting sucked into it. And it makes it look like this sort of ringed thing. And apparently I just want to tell you, it's the only thing he fucked with. It's symmetrical in the movie. Like it's basically a big circle. Whereas the real thing would be blue and kind of asymmetrical. It looks really weird.
Okay.
Same basic idea, but it's like the circle is just sort of wrong. It's like big on one side and small on the other.
Here's my take on all that.
And he just sort of smoothed it out to make it look a little more normal because he thinks audiences were just been too like weirded out by it.
Here's my take on all of that. I like it. It looks cool.
So here they are in the new galaxy.
Bum, bum, bum.
Planet 1 is giving them like a thumbs up. Let's go check it out. So they go down to Planet 1.
And you know the old adage, first is the worst.
And they have all these conversations about like how do we approach it to like use the least time because Planet 1 is right by the black hole.
Because McConaughey at this point is like really on the clock. He's like, made my daughter promise, gotta get back home.
Exactly. And he's still thinking like plan A, in which we solve gravity equations and like bring Earth out.
Coop is all about planning.
And Anne Hathaway's basically with him, although she's less like emotional about it. She's like, no. I mean, that's true. We should.
She's
think
also
about that.
she's trying to rekindle and
she wants to get to Wolf Evans, but he's all the way out there.
Right. She's all about Plan E.
So they go to this planet, and it's just water.
Yep. Too much water.
Now I was like on board.
It's wet
because it's shallow too.
Right. They land and they're just sort of like, oh, okay. And it's very heavy. Mm-hmm. Gravity's low, very, very strong because they're near the black hole.
It's a
keeps
planet
you grounded.
Yep.
It's a planet full of cloners. We should mention that. It is. It is.
Yeah, it's in the Rishi maze. No, of course it is. Yeah, we all know that. We should note that Dexter Jester is in charge of NASA in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah. He runs it out of his diner.
Very interesting.
Oh boy. So this planet is terrifying, but in a way that is again like unique. That's again what I love about this. He finds this frightening shit in just waves up and down. Like that's it. That's all this planet is just waves.
What I like about this movie is that all the stuff that's scary in it is scary because it is real.
Right.
Like he's not heightening stuff too much, so it's just like, oh, this is just upsetting.
He's created like a sci-fi nightmare, but in the idea of just like what if a planet was near a black hole
it's a
and
short
essentially
walk
it would just be waves
from where we actually are.
No alien plants, no alien creatures,
no aliens in this movie.
No animals. It's just humans and just different terrain.
Avatars.
And avatars.
Yeah. Avatars.
All right. So, waves.
Avatars.
And so, yeah, thank you. What happens at the wave planet?
Big wave.
Tars goes into Asterix mode to rescue Brand.
Right. She's trying to get the data.
Which
they
is useless. The data just says, like, this planet is waves.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. This place sucks. Where are the mountains? There aren't mountains. They're waves. Learn shapes, dummy.
Wes Bentley dies here. He gets drowned by the waves.
McConaughey is hopping mad now because
they're wasting time on this planet because like every hour is 7 years or something crazy like that.
They're wasting time. They lost a Bentley. We'd just gotten him back.
It's true. His career had just gotten back in order and he seemed to be doing okay. And then just whoosh.
Just right off the wagon again.
That shot of him floating down there is pretty crazy when they leave.
Agreed. It is a lot.
And it's just, this is where he confronts Brand where he's like, you fucked up. You don't know what you're doing. Like, you know, you didn't get that how much of a cost there would be. Because they essentially, by being down there for too long, they lose like 30 years practically.
So can you explain to me how and why they lose 30 years? I'm
not smart enough about the theory of relativity to explain why it is. It's just that time dilates in different ways the closer you are to like gravitational forces.
Okay. Did they know that going to that planet would cost them that much time?
But they thought it was going to be 7 years because they thought what would happen would they would detach, go down, pick her up or check out the probe, leave. But because the wave knocks the boat out, the ship out, they have to like wait on the planet for an additional whatever minutes.
Gotcha.
Because the engines are flooded and shit. And that's just like
that's what kills
way more time.
Okay. Yeah.
So when they come back to the planet, to the ship, one less person, Romilly has been like in hypersleep, awake. He's like aged, but it's been like 30 years.
This is another thing we're talking about how like they make the very weak attempt to yellow Michael Caine's hair a little so he looks younger later. David Gassi, like they I would have given him a little more hair before they leave the ship.
Oh, sure, right. Just so you could lose some of it. But he's not been awake for all of that time.
I'm aware.
He has been sleeping.
I'm
right?
aware.
Yeah.
I just think because the reveal of him there and when he tells them, like, I've been here for 30 years.
Yeah, right.
It would have been a little more affecting if he looked a little more different.
Sure, I guess
Because you're looking at him and you're like, did I forget he had gray
You
in
wish
his
he was
beard?
like, ooh.
I don't need him to be full whatever, but I just want a little bit of that shock.
They
of
come
like,
back and he is now the Six Flags guy. and Brand's like, you're so old.
He's like, dun, 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 dun.
So, but instead of what you're talking about,
Yes.
they present the emotional toll of the time lost in a video montage of all the messages they've gotten.
It's a lot.
And that's where you get the McConaughey just breaking down as he sees his son have his whole life.
You also get, we all know in puberty, what happens to a young man is his voice raises and goes 5 octaves higher, which is how Tim Lee.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Dad, I got a B in school. I guess I'm going to be a farmer. And then it's like, hey, kid. It's so, and you're totally right.
The old Casey whisper.
Hey, it's Coop Jr.
I can't beat this thing.
But I gotta say, and it is one of those, it's almost Malickian where you're like, oh shit, that's Casey Affleck. Like, he got Casey Affleck to be on a computer screen.
Yeah.
Because all you see about Casey Affleck in First, although let's admit, Casey Affleck was kind of down at this moment in his career.
I'm sorry. This is coming only, 2 years after Tower Heist?
I think 3.
I think he was riding
3 years after
pretty
Tower Heist.
fucking high, my friend.
Because you got Tower Heist,
Which he rules
then
in.
he takes a big old break, but then he's back, baby.
Ain't them bodies saying?
Them saints ain't them bodies. And then he comes out of the furnace.
Oh,
That's right.
Jeez.
Ain't them bodies saints, of course, filmed in a furnace. And then he
Yes.
comes out of the
Hey,
furnace.
do you know that movie's about a town near where I grew up?
Out of the furnace?
Yeah.
That's rough news, man.
Yeah. I
My
actually
condolences.
I know a lot about the people that they're based on.
That's
That
great,
is
but
dark.
I cannot
Yeah.
give us. We can't go on and out of
No,
the
we
furnace
can't.
tangent.
We can't, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, we'll go out. We'll do a mailbag where we just talk about out of the furnace.
So yeah, I guess at this point, this is 5 years after the Oscar nom for Jesse James.
Longer, isn't that 2007?
Yeah.
This is 7 years after.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
This is 14?
This is 14. That's
Okay,
7.
right.
And he had done Gone Baby Gone in 2007, then
was
doesn't
his
make a
big year.
movie for 3 years and comes back in 2010 with The Killer Inside Me and fucking I'm Still Here.
Which is why he was not acting for so long.
Exactly. Anyway.
Yeah.
So he's there. You see him. He meets a woman. They get married. They have a kid. The kid dies. Like, you're watching all this shit, and you're just seeing it in McConaughey's face as he just starts crying.
Yes.
It's fucking great.
And he's sort of alluding to the fact that Coop doesn't want to talk to him. Murph,
Right,
sorry.
Right. Because you also see Lithgow. That's before where
Yeah.
Lithgow's like, have fun in the wormhole. As I tried to get her, but she wouldn't. She's very stubborn, like your dad.
Yeah.
And then you hear that Lithgow died. They buried him out back in the back 40.
And then you think that the video's done, and then out of nowhere, here comes Chassis
Comes
Baby.
Chassis.
Uh,
Great introduction, I would say. Actually, is just you just click to her totally white face because it's in that
Yeah.
sort of harshly lit webcam,
almost like
kind of
night
thing.
mode, kind of.
Exactly,
Yeah, night
and
vision.
she's just like, "Hey, Dad, I'm as old as you now." Like you said.
Her best scene in the movie, no question. She kills this.
And he's losing it. And then you cut back to Earth and you see now she works for NASA and
Yeah.
she's with Michael Caine, who's in his wheelchair now, being like, "Oh, we'll solve my equation soon. Don't worry,"
And I remember everyone, there was a lot of Oscar hype for this performance going into it, I think just because of her function in the movie. And Warner Brothers had this contract where she had Most Violent Year that same year, and they said she couldn't promote Most Violent Year.
We've already talked about this, right,
Which
on
is
the podcast.
strange.
She's way better in this than she is in Most Violent Year.
I think she's very good in both.
I don't think she's
But
good in Most
I
Violent.
think her performance, I think she's much like McConaughey, very much working at service of the movie. It's not a very showy performance.
That's true.
It's not the kind of thing
Apart
that was
from these couple scenes
ever
where
going to
she's
get
more
nominated.
emotional.
I'd say other than the phone
movie
call
would have
scene.
had to be like a runaway critical success
Right.
for that kind of stuff to be happening.
But she is. I think about Sean Penn did this interview. Not that I usually like to quote
Go
Sean
on
Penn,
quickly. Yes,
but they asked him like which actors he was excited by. You know, if he thought there were good actors coming up, and he said Jessica Chastain. She's a fucking Stradivarius. And I think about that all the time. Like anytime I see her in a movie, I'm like, yeah, she's just like it's just like a fucking.
she's a great actress.
Yeah,
I love her.
she's a Stradivarius.
She's Stradivarius.
Yeah.
So back in space, though, what's most important is there's a debate over should we go to the second planet, Dr. Mann, the best of all of us, the king of the leader of the Lazarus missions.
Everyone loves him. He's like the Matt Damon of astronauts, let's say.
Exactly. Or do we go to Wolf Edmonds, whose data was a little better, but has not been broadcasting the thumbs up?
And also, I love him.
And McConaughey is basically, Coop is saying to Brand, like, you got to think about Earth rather than just yourself. And
she's
she
trying
has
to
this
explain
speech.
love in scientific terms.
Right, where she's saying, but like, what if love is like this sort of definable thing that is important? Like, has already been in the movie throughout. Because, of course, that's what guided him as we learn, you know, spoiler alert, he was her ghost. You know, like.
Ghost in the Shelf.
Ghost in the Shelf. You know, like that, like, what we have understood about ourselves, future humans have understood about past humans, is that like that's what's anchoring us and helping us to survive.
Sure.
Is our connections to each other.
Yes.
And there's only one thing that goes through a black hole, gravity. Or is there two things, gravity and love?
Yeah. Netflix's Love, starring Gillian Jacobs and Paul Rudd.
TARS is
Season 2
broadcasting it on
streaming
all
now.
signals when he's in the black hole.
People cannot get enough of love.
But they go to the second planet, which is, again, the entrance to each of these planets. Like the entrance to the water planet, where it's just like clouds, 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 water. And if you're in IMAX, it's suddenly like this widescreen shot.
Yeah.
And then the second time, it's that thing where they're going through the clouds, and then bonk, they hit a cloud because the clouds are frozen.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, frozen cloud. You don't see that every day.
Cool.
Yeah, try saving your files in that cloud. You're not going to upload failed.
So down here
It's frozen.
is Dr. Mann. They pull him out. Who is it?
Matty D.
Matty D. I didn't remember that he had been cast. I was genuinely surprised by
I
his
knew he was
appearance.
in it. I was waiting to see who he was going to be, but I thought he could just as likely be a face in a video call. I didn't think it was going to be this prominent a role. Because he could have been. I understand why they didn't want to credit him.
No, it's of course.
Because it tips the hand of the movie. It's kind of like a Kevin Spacey in Seven thing. But I also feel like he would have been the end Matt Damon.
Yeah, he would have been
Right.
on the poster. The poster billing is McConaughey, Hathaway, Chastain, and Michael Caine.
Which usually Nolan's rocking a lot of people.
No,
love
he
the
doesn't
title.
let he doesn't let
Type
Topher in
4.
there. He doesn't let Lithgow in there. He
No.
doesn't let Wes Bentley or anything in there.
No. Casey.
That scene,
At bat.
Casey
at the bat.
that scene where they pull him out and
Mm-hmm.
he's just crying is great.
And the whole line is like, Matt Damon. It's
Matt
fucking
Damon's sad.
He's a good crier.
Great crier.
He's a great crier.
And then
great
you cut to him like in his little like warm up blanket.
And now he's getting back into the Matt Damon groove, and he's like, okay, steady hand, here we go. He's the hero scientist.
that's what I love about this
Me too.
shit. He is. You're immediately like, yeah, this guy.
Right.
You know, he's a pro.
This is a movie star. He's a pro. We know what he's
a
doing.
stable, smart man.
Oh, it feels like he's the lead of his own movie that we haven't been watching. But now, okay, smooth transition.
and he's like, in
He's
my
gonna
planet, it's rough, ammonia clouds. Every day is 67 hours long, but you know we could live here now. Even I'm thinking like, that sounds bad.
We got a lot of options, you know.
But that is what he's got, and he blew up his robot Kip, named after Kip Thorne.
Oh, I thought it was named after Kip Pardue.
Yeah, that's correct. It's named after Kip Pardue.
Actor from Rules of Attraction.
Yeah, he was in Driven.
Yes, he was also in Remember the Titans.
The
Old Kip
decision here,
Pardue.
and then this is where they get the news from Chastain on Tars's body that Michael Caine has died.
Yes.
And we have that scene where Michael Caine confesses to her that
I'm dying. I am going to die right now.
he
in this bed.
reads the poem, he recites the poem,
Dying of the podcast.
and he admits to her that he knows they can't
was a lie.
They can't solve this gravity equation of his. They can't bring the people from
Plan
Earth
B,
up.
more like Plan A, because that's the only plan.
And that's all we got. And he dies having finally admitted it. And Matt Damon knows this too.
And she's like, tell me one thing. Did my dad know? And he's like, hold on, let me recite this poem one more time, and then dies mid-poem.
That's a great scene too, though, because you can see her frustration where she's like, "Oh fuck, this is it. He's got the poem ready."
So now she's like, double fuck my dad. Like, was he just pulling a con on me this whole time?
Yep. So she's mad, and Hathaway's mad, and McConaughey's mad.
Mm-hmm.
But the decision is made. Okay, everyone will just stay here. This planet is habitable. McConaughey will leave. He'll go back through the wormhole, back to Earth.
I'll go hang out with his 50-year-old daughter.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the plan. So we have this scene where they're in their spacesuits,
Mm-hmm.
and Matt Damon's like, "All right, well, let me show you where we'll live. It's below here, even though I live up here. Definitely nothing weird about that. And like, we'll just go down there, the two of us, just me and you." And I love their spacesuits with the little like jetpacky things that they can like do big jumps with.
It's also interesting that like in the Endurance, their suits are totally white. Little hints of gray, but totally white. McConaughey, or Damon rather, has the orange on his suit, which is like his fucking suit in The Martian.
Yeah.
It's literally like a Martian colored suit.
You're right. There's a little bit of orange to
A
it.
little bit of orange he's got going on there.
This scene, what are you looking up here?
Well, just that. Okay, I want to double confirm this. There is the thing that like at this point, Chastain's supposed to be the same age McConaughey is.
Yes.
McConaughey's much older than Chastain.
That's a good point. How
I just
old
looked at
is
7 years older. I thought it was 10.
He's 47.
She's 40.
And she's 40, which is funny because he's supposed to be playing about late 30s, I
Yes,
guess. But, whatever.
Sure.
But yes,
Right.
You're right.
She looks that age. He looks older.
He's a funny looking guy.
He's weathered at this point.
He's
leathery.
He's not like Rust Cole post.
No.
But he's like pre-Rust Cole.
He's leathery.
So
Man would make a mean beef jerky.
man, though, with two N's,
Yes.
has this monologue that I think every time I watch it, I love it more and more. What do you think? Like, essentially where it seems like he's just chatting to Coop about like the power of the human spirit. And like, isn't it amazing that you're here and you're trying to help your daughter? And like, this is what drives humans, right? But then you realize like, he's essentially describing why he's so great.
Sure.
It's this long bit of rationalization about like why he needs to survive and others don't.
And how he has justified abhorrent
What
behavior.
he's done, which is essentially he's been broadcasting from the planet that the planet is good when he knows it's not.
Right, because he is lonely.
He's lonely and he just was sure he would have gotten it and he didn't.
Right.
And so he's led them down there to die.
He should have downloaded far more podcasts before he went on the mission.
He should have downloaded Blank Check.
Ran out. And we have over 300 hours of entertainment. He could have.
Shush. I hate you. No, I love you.
Love you too.
Yeah, we're the best. Two friends. But I love that idea of like him not being evil even.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that sort of pathetic not pathetic even. Like that.
Yeah. No, I think
it is somewhat pathetic. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like that like the way he has over the years thought it through to himself where it's like humans want to survive.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm doing here.
Yeah.
He's going to get on the Ranger. He's going to go up and he's going to go to the good planet. He'll do it.
Right. So he kicks McConaughey.
He kicks him down a cliff and to kill him. And McConaughey fights back.
He's a fighter.
And he bashes his helmet and cracks it.
A moment that always feels weird to me because it feels like McConaughey's like trying to keep him pinned down.
Right. Yes.
And once he's got him in the pin position, then Damon can hit the helmet.
Right.
For McConaughey to just stand up and be like, okay, different type of fighting. This helmet thing.
It's true. It's true. That I agree. That moment
because he's
is a
on
little
top.
Sweaty. I know. You're right.
It's a little sweaty.
But then McConaughey is slowly dying of suffocation.
Yes.
And
Ammonia.
I love that man is like, I thought I could watch this, but I can't. I'm sorry. Like he's still justifying it to himself.
Yeah, he's like, this sucks.
Hey, you're seeing your family. I know you will. That's what happens when you die. You know.
The part of his speech I really like is I never once considered it wouldn't be the right planet.
Right.
However he phrases
Yes,
it.
I
But
always
the
thought
idea,
it'd be. Yeah, I
this
would
guy
find
is
it.
such the Boy Scout. He was like the Captain America of NASA. That it was like, I'm going to get the winning planet. Of course I am.
But what he doesn't get in describing all of this is that Coop will also try to survive. Like, it's the thing. He's describing the way that Coop's going to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And so Coop escapes, or it's more like Damon escapes. He gets into the Ranger and he flies up.
Yeah.
But the robots kind of are onto him. And poor Romilly dies too when Romilly tries to investigate the broken robot.
Yeah. Kabloom.
Just that. And then
Just like Kip Pardue's career, it is up in smoke.
And then fucking hell. And then Damon's moment in the space station, in the Endurance, where he's still monologuing, and his last line is, "There is a moment." And then because he thinks like
he's trying to dock with them.
He's done it manually. He's done it badly because they like turned off
And
the
they're like,
autopilot.
Get the fuck away from
like,
us.
"You're
we
crazy.
don't like you."
And he's like, no, this is important. There is a moment. And he's dead. And he blows up half the ship.
Yeah.
God.
So now they're like double fucked.
Humanity's worst enemy.
They're double fucked, and they also each are like, McConaughey's like, fuck, I just lost like 35 years of my daughter's life. And
Right.
And Hathaway's like, I just lost the chance to see the guy I was in love with.
Right.
For this fucking homicidal maniac.
Right. And also there is that sort of crazy action sequence where the score's going, where they're like spinning and spinning and spinning to like lock back in because it's the only way they can stop it spinning.
Yes.
Which is, again, I feel like a cool way of like a science-y problem that's also kind of an action sequence.
A genuinely nauseating sequence.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love where Hathaway knocks out and then her arm just suddenly goes like, because she's no longer in control of her body.
Yeah. She's just floating.
But now they're triple fucked.
Right. Yeah, I'd say triple. I'd upgrade it to triple.
So the plan now is, okay, we'll just shoot Hathaway and the jizz bomb at Wolf Edmonds.
Yes.
The last planet.
Right.
We'll use the gravity from the black hole to do it.
Gotta leave something behind, though.
But to let her go, everything, the robots have to leave.
Yeah.
Or what case? I guess Tars goes with her.
Sure.
Yeah, Tars goes with her. Because Tars goes with him. So both.
Right. Case goes with
her because you see Case walking with her right at the end there. Yeah.
Right. They're walking hand in hand.
And she thinks McConaughey, the Coop's going with her, but he's not. And they have the whole black hole scene.
Behind. And
the black hole scene is where they lose another 50 years practically slingshotting around it. And then he goes into the black hole.
Yes. Okay, now this you love.
I fucking love it. No, I do feel like this loses some people.
Time box?
The library tesseract. I don't know. Yeah. I remember just being so freaked out in the IMAX by what was going to be in the black hole.
Me too. I was shitting bricks.
Because there was it like goes black,
right.
The instruments die, and then it's just the screen is black, and then you see this like white dust.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck is it's really alarming.
Yeah.
And the science of it to Kip Thorne and to all these other people is like, look, we can tell you everything that we know, but we don't know what's in a black hole. So you can really do whatever you want in there. Yeah. And inside it is a time library.
David
I think it's so
stretching
good.
His arms like P.T. Barnum, showing off his latest attraction.
Where he's just falling and suddenly the image of the Tesseract like it appears around him and the score goes wild again.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Oh, God.
Well, it's like the entire history of this girl's bedroom, like a card library where he can like start to just string through it and find the moment he wants. And he's trying to get his way out of it, and he's knocking stuff over, and
he's being a ghost.
Right. He's making impacts in the past.
Because what has happened here is humans, some future humans, have created this thing for him to communicate with the past, because gravity is the only thing that goes through black holes. And if we could use gravity to communicate, i.e. by knocking books down or fucking with a watch, it is theoretically probable that you could communicate through time.
Which is cool.
Which is fucking great.
But then the question is,
how gravity and love are intertwined.
But then how did the future people create this?
I don't know. They're the future.
They're
amazing.
At some point
we figured out how to exist in 5 dimensions.
You know, in like
but you want to exist in 5 dimensions?
No, I do. But I'm saying is that he made basically our existence continue
Sure.
right? But that would then say that the future people had an effect on that period of time. So how did they?
Okay, Ben, I can explain this very simply.
Okay.
You know, in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure,
Oh, hell yeah.
when they don't have the keys, and then Ted's like, "Wait a second, we have a time machine. Let's just remember that once we're done with this, we go back in time and place the keys here." And then they look and they have the keys suddenly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, and they're like, "Okay, let's just make sure that we come back and place the keys
And do that later.
And that happens off screen after the movie's ended. But you just have to buy that they've remembered to do it, and so it all fits together.
They can use whatever technology they have to create the wormhole, to create things like in the black hole.
Which now in the future they know they have to do because it happened because he was there.
What they can't do is travel through time.
Right.
If that makes sense. They can't just open a time portal and go to the past and be like, Matthew McConaughey should try to fly a shuttle.
Okay.
But they can harness us and our connections to each other as these like handshakes through the past to influence time, right? And in creating the tesseract for him, they've created this like emotional like memory palace that he'll understand.
Yeah, it's pretty tough on him though.
Tough on him, but that they know his daughter will understand because she understands him. Like it's
She's
like
smart.
That's right. Like that's the magic of and the science coming together, rather than the science just being like, well, they make a time machine and like they can move through time. He's trying to understand like how could you make a time machine using gravitational like relativistic physics, rather than like look a phone booth, which is cool. Phone booths are cool.
Phone booths are cool.
But
is it to suggest then that fate is a thing as well? Because like he's affecting all of the different moments in the past. Like
it's not so much fate as much as it's like, I mean, like we're fated to be connected to each other. I don't know, like, you know, like it's not like I feel like not like a straight time loop thing where it's like that happened because you knew it would happen because you had done it in the future or whatever. But you know, it's more like it happened. Like her books are falling off, right?
Right.
So it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like he knows he has to do it right away. I don't know. Like, you know, we could talk about this in circles for days.
You do, but once he's there, he realizes what he has to do is he has to fulfill. He understands the language because he was on the other side of it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but it's more important that she understands.
Well, that's what he realizes.
Because he
That I'm
can't
not
like
the one
pass
who was
her a note.
right. So I'm not the one who was supposed to save the world. She is.
And
My job is just to communicate.
All
this
he
to her.
does is communicate gravitational equations to her that they can only see inside of a black hole, and the only thing that can move through a black hole is gravity. So it's the only way to communicate the equations is through gravity. Right. He can't come out of the black hole and be like, "I found a bunch of cool shit." He can, but when he does, they already know because he comes out in the future and she's old.
Right.
And Biff has taken over, and now it's like. He's running a casino. He's kind of Trump adjacent.
I mean, we should wrap up soon, but
yeah,
because I gotta go. But
you're waiting for a train.
I am waiting for a train, but I can go for another 10 minutes.
He drops out of the black hole.
Comes out of the black hole. It's the future.
Whoa!
And he was picked up by a space station that is much like the one that Brand built. I think there's supposed to be many of them now.
Yes.
And
this is Cooper Station.
This
named
is
after
Cooper Station.
Me? No, named after your daughter.
Exactly.
Real quick though, I do want to say it's awesome that you figure out that it was his hand when he goes back through.
Yes, because when he goes through the black hole further, when the tesseract closes, he goes through the wormhole and he sees them. Yeah,
I love that.
Now, can I throw to you? Excuse me. Can I throw to you my major complaint about this movie?
Sure. Yeah.
I think this ending section is rough.
Why do you think it's rough? Just because it's fast?
Yes, I think this is a weird
fast.
example of a movie that actually needs to be a little longer.
Hey, man, if this movie was 3.5 hours longer, I'd be pretty happy too. I do think Nolan is also just like, we went through the black hole. The audience is so exhausted by all of that that we should just wrap it up right here. You know what I mean?
Like, I just think there are a lot of ideas
there's no
in
patience
this end
left.
section I find really interesting that are really abridged.
I think
rushed.
a lot of people had the problem, especially with the scene where fucking Ellen Burstyn put herself in hypersleep to get to this space station. Yeah. And he's like, he sees her, and it's an overwhelming moment when he sees her on the bed.
Yes.
But then he sits down and he's like, I was your ghost. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, so what's up with you? And she's like, you should go.
Right. I don't like that.
I wish there was longer, but it's hard.
I think that
I think her closing monologue is great. the things she's saying when you're cutting to the images of Anne Hathaway.
I agree. I think
it's fast.
I want her to die with him by her side. I just don't like that she says
You just hate Ellen Burstyn that much. You just want her to die.
Ellen Burstyn.
No, she's great.
I've told you my Ellen Burstyn story, right?
I don't know.
I've been in 3 projects with Ellen Burstyn. We've never had a scene together, but I've been in 3 different things with Ellen Burstyn.
Which are?
There was an unproduced, or rather, never went to series pilot for Showtime, directed by Tim Robbins, called Possible Side Effects. That was my first real job.
Huh, I never knew you did that. Okay.
Josh Lucas, Tim Blake Nelson, Ellen Burstyn. It was a good cast. It did not go to series.
No.
And then Political Animals, which I played Carla Gugino's assistant. And she played the matriarch of the main family in the show, Sigourney Weaver's mother.
Yeah.
And so we never crossed over. We were totally different plot lines.
Right.
And then she plays Kevin Costner's mother in Draft Day.
That's right. She does. She's pretty good, actually.
I think she's very good.
Yeah.
And
I mean, she often gets handed these very small roles, but she's great. Yeah.
I was at a like screening party thing, and she was there, and I went up to her and I was like, "Hey, you don't know me, but
I've been in these things with you." Sure.
This was when I had done the first one, maybe, or the first 2, and I'm a big fan of your work and this and that, and was talking to her about stuff. And I was like looking for an acting teacher, and I asked her if she had any recommendations. She recommended me this woman, Elizabeth Kemp, who I've worked with for years and is incredible. And so on Draft Day, I was like, I should really go thank her for that. And so I said, hey, you probably don't remember me, but we were in Possible Side Effects together. Right. And she said, I've never been in something called Possible Side Effects. I said, well, okay, in Political Animals. I said, I don't remember you. And I said, we didn't work together, but I saw you at a party once, and you recommended Elizabeth Kemp to me. And she went, oh, thank you. We were in the hair and makeup trailer next to each other. And I said that, and she went, oh, thank you. And then I went back to talking to my hair and makeup guy. And I'm like chatty. I'm a chatty person.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to the hair and makeup guy. And after like 2 minutes, she went, Griffin? And I said, yeah. And she went, try silence.
Wow. Oof. That's
so
scary.
I got shut the fuck down by
She did not want
Ellen
you talking.
Burstyn.
Woo.
And then there was like silence for 5 minutes, and she was like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to run my lines. And I was like, no, it's fine. Miss Burstyn, it's fine.
Oh my God. That's amazing. I can't believe that's the greatest story. I can't believe it.
That's intense, right?
Oh my God. That's now her best moment after Alice doesn't live here anymore. She beat
silence.
it. 84-year-old Academy Award winner Ellen Burstyn told you to shut the fuck up.
Probably one of my 10 favorite actors of all
I
time.
should say to you, try silence now.
Yeah.
That'll be the new bit. Griffin, try silence.
Try silence.
He goes off to see Anne Hathaway, who is on Wolf Edmonds. Wolf Edmonds is dead, but he's on his planet, and she's settling down for the long nap.
Looks good. Looks
with
like
her
a
jizz
good
bomb.
planet.
Looks
good
nice.
planet.
Looks sort of Marsy.
I like that his old house is a museum that they let him move into.
That's right.
See, this is like I want
that scene with Tars where he revives him is fantastic.
I love it. And I like him sitting on the porch with Tars. I like this whole thing of like McConaughey now not knowing where he belongs, like being stuck between 2 worlds. I kind of want him to be by her side when she dies, and then to have a section of the movie for like 10 minutes of him not knowing where to go before he goes off to Brand. Because the idea I like is that like Brand's the only person he's ever going to be able to talk to for the rest of his life.
Right.
No one else is going to fucking get what
everyone
he's
else grew up on space stations.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it just feels rushed to me. I feel like it doesn't emotionally.
That's fine. I think that's a fair. Yeah. I mean, that's. Fair.
They don't even really explain the space stations, which are so cool.
They are based on real theoretical like things. Yeah,
but they don't give us enough of that because
they're
just
these
like we got to
centrifuges.
I think the movie just needs like another 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think the movie needs.
What?
You ready?
Yeah.
Sequel. Interstellar 2. There's plenty of space for a sequel. Interstellar. He goes to Wolf Edmonds. There's all kinds of bullshit you can do. Life on Wolf Edmonds with Anne Hathaway.
Nolan would never do it, right?
No, of course not. But I mean, and I think he really feels like the emotional journey is completed at the end of the, like he's told his story. But I would see Interstellar 2.
I don't like that he leaves her and that he doesn't even meet the rest of her family. Like he walks in the room, they're like, here's all her family, here's all her kids.
I know.
He just goes straight to her. She's like, no one should watch their child die. And he's like, okay, cool, good point, peace out. And just leaves.
I agree with you about the cleanness of it, but I also think you already said it's like he's like an alien to these people. Yeah. And he can't deal with that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have to play the box office game.
Okay. And then you have to catch a train.
Yeah, got it. I'm waiting for a train. Number 1, this is November 7th, 2014.
Big Hero 6.
Is Big Hero 6, which opened to $56 million.
Mop the floor.
When Interstellar opened to $47 million at number 2.
Wiped the floor with Interstellar.
Big Hero 6 is a movie I saw in theaters and I had a pretty nice time with, and I've never really thought much about it since.
I've never heard of there were 5 others before this?
No.
Great joke. 50 comedy points. It won the Oscar.
It did. Oddly.
It's
not a bad movie. It's
fine.
sweet.
It's totally fine. I'm going to stick with my same review when I had when it came out. Big Hero 6, more like Big Hero 2, because only 2 of those characters you care about.
I would say more like Big Hero 6.5 out of 10.
I'm not saying 6.5 out of 10.
I know.
I'm saying only 2 out of the 6 characters.
Craziest thing is
written.
Big Hero 6 grosses less worldwide than Interstellar.
Interesting, but more domestically.
More domestically, yes.
Okay.
Number 3 at the box office is a huge hit of the fall. An R-rated thriller, kind of like drama thriller, that has made in 6 weeks $145 million and just went up from 4 to 3. So it's like
twist.
Really sticking around.
It's got
it
a bit
is
of a twist to it.
Great movie.
Is an Oscar play movie?
It was kind of an Oscar play, but it only ended up with like 2 nominations.
Gone Girl?
Correct.
Movie I love.
Great movie.
Yeah.
We should do Fincher. I know it would be as
do.
obvious as doing Nolan, but it would be so much fun.
We'll do. We just got to do a couple weird people in between, but then we'll do Fincher.
Number 4 is a horror movie that opened number 1 the week before that is pretty bad, but the sequel was really great. I think the sequel came out this year.
Ouija?
Ouija.
I still haven't seen Ouija 2. Origin of Evil? Is that what
Yeah,
it's called?
I dug Ouija too.
It looked so good, and I just missed it. It was like when I was working, and I wanted to... Yeah.
43 million it's made in 3 weeks. It was number 1 for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Number 5 is a movie people really have already forgotten about, which I don't like at all. I think you liked it a little more. It's a war movie. Like a really, real dirty war movie.
Oh, I don't like this movie.
Oh, you
very
don't?
much.
Okay.
I think it's kind of well made. I think the first chunk of it's pretty solid. I think it totally falls apart. Fury.
The David Ayer movie.
Yeah.
In which World War II is twisted. Twisted. I mean, you might like it because these actors, they dirty.
It's one of the dirtiest fucking movies.
I think David Ayer was like, put some dirt on him. They put dirt on me. He's like, great. Now put some grease on him.
Oof. All right.
Grease him up.
There's also that story where like Shia LaBeouf was in the makeup trailer with Logan Lerman, and he's like, what, kid, they're putting dirt on your face, huh? Is that all you're doing? And he's like, yeah, it's makeup. And Shia LaBeouf apparently took out a knife and cut his face and was like, this is how you act. You gotta live it.
Well, he learned all that knife work.
What a nice guy.
Yeah, what a nice boy.
You're right. Thank you. Number 6 is St. Vincent.
Not a good movie.
No, you got Nightcrawler.
Oh, come on.
A good movie.
I like
Nightcrawler.
St. Vincent.
Oh, okay.
I find St. Vincent.
John Wick is sort of hanging out on the way to its nice run. It's in the middle of its nice run.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's back.
Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day is beginning its Oscar run.
It's platforming.
That movie made $66 million.
Very bizarre. Directed by Miguel Arteta.
No, it was directed by Ingmar Bergman. The Book of Life, the animated Day of the Dead movie.
Yes.
Birdman is platforming in there. Actually, is platforming.
Worst film of 2014.
It's pretty bad. The Judge is at number 12.
Oh, wow. I just said the worst film of 2014. Now,
The Judge is worst.
yes,
The Judge is way worse.
The Judge is worse.
You got The Maze Runner, Dracula Untold, some fun ones.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy is still in there. It's November. I know it came out in August, but still, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy made $419,000 that weekend in its 15th week.
Too shabby.
What a great movie.
Well, Interstellar, it's David's favorite movie ever. He wants to marry it.
Yeah, I'd marry it. I would do it.
So I know you have to go.
Sure.
I just wanted to share
Final
thought
I'm just gonna pack
about this movie.
Okay.
So my takeaway is I think that this is Nolan's metaphor for
So opening a bag.
Velcro in the background
as David like is very much
literally
leaving.
packs a bag.
I think it's like a metaphor for the artists creating art and the sacrifice that they have to make, like
For sure.
like
We should mention
regarding
that.
their family. Like
I would agree with that.
if you think of all these like artists and geniuses over time, they have always if they have a family, treated them like garbage.
Yeah.
And I think that this is like a movie that really illustrates that in a really amazing way.
I agree. That's also what the Toy Story trilogy is about. That's why I like it so much.
I can't wait for you to treat your family like garbage to make Blank Check. And Ben.
Well, yes, my dad. He thinks I'm already doing that.
Come on. You don't see your dad?
Ray Tintori, friend of the podcast, good friend of mine. Last night, from when we were recording, was the Tick premiere.
Yes.
And Ray went up to him and was talking about how much he likes the podcast, and apparently told my father some of the things I've said about my father on the podcast.
Wait, have you mentioned? I thought we cut the. Oh no, we already had this discussion.
I shared this with Peter. I said it's a little bit of my fault because I was supposed to cut it out and I did not.
Ben did say that to my father, which is how Ben met my father.
And that's the premise of the new CBS sitcom in September, How Ben Met Your Father. I had to lay it up.
Great work. Well, that has been Interstellar. Tune in next week for the finale of our
Dunkirk.
Yeah. Maybe bonus. We're still talking about it.
Yeah, we should talk about that off mic. But yeah.
But
Griffin's going to go to Australia, and I'm going to go to the Hudson Valley.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. Big thanks to Ange Ferguda for running our social media accounts, for Liam Montgomery for doing the theme song, Pat Reynolds and Joe Bowen for the artwork. Check out our subreddit, blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit.
Yep.
And as always, I'm just going to go to sleep. You're gonna leave, and I'm gonna
literally gonna go to sleep
here
right here
in the recording studio. Yeah. I am done. I am finished. Okay, this is gonna be rough.
Gilbert Cruz suggested Rage Against the Dying of the podcast. That was one of his.
Well, I mean, I was gonna.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
I mean, is it too much?
Go on. What?
Is it an easy layup to just do Kane again? Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's an easy layup, but that doesn't mean layups are 2 points.
But sure. I've always had a hard time doing a McConaughey, and especially with my voice sounding like this today, I don't know if it'll make it easier or harder.
What would be the McConaughey line? Like, it's weird. This
used to look up at the sky. Yeah, I can't do it.
No, dude, just do Kane. It's fine.
Yeah, okay. Boy, this could be even worse than last time. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at... What the fuck am I doing?
No, it's great. It's great.
Okay, let me try it again. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should rave... I'm fucking up the word. Okay, third take.
I'm trying to pinpoint what it is. Do not go gentle. It is something about the way you do it.
Michael K.